Thank you. Please sit down. I'm going to take my jacket off, so please feel free to do so. Right. Well, that was a good start, wasn't it? Okay, I'll try again. Good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of Monmouthshire County Council on this Thursday, 26th of June, taking place in County Hall, Usk. A bit of an echo? I hope it's not me. Probably is. Right, is that better? That probably was me. Okay, you'll notice we have a new face to my right here, and I'm sure you all be very happy to welcome back our CEO, Paul Matthews. So welcome back, Paul. We're really pleased to see you back. Feel free. Yeah, Paul has asked for a few seconds, so please do.
It will be short. Thanks ever so much. Can I also thank you all, pretty much all of you for all of the kind messages and tokens of support you sent me over the course of the last few months. It was very touching and I was very appreciative. I think I should also thank the officer side of the organisation that matched that, but also particularly to a couple of people in this room now, and I would single out Peter Davis for being prepared to stand up and unfortunately make my role look so damned easy. I wasn't sure whether I'd have a role to come back to. I was very grateful for that, Peter, and I think that public acknowledgement is important. More than anything else, you try to play a part over the years in designing an organisation that does many things, but one of those is to hold people when they need it. I never thought I would need to be a beneficiary of that, but to feel the other side of it was important, and I think I've learned a lot of leadership lessons over the course of the last 6 months, which hopefully I can continue to employ. So thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Paul. Do we have any apologies for absence? None? That's good, thank you. And declarations of interest? No, thank you. Right, Chair's announcements, that's online, you can see that. And then, so we move on to item 4, minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of May 2025. Are you happy for me to move those as a true record? Is that a yes or a no? That's right.
I'd like to speak on this item, please, Chair.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I'd like to propose an amendment. I note that the minutes are quite detailed in terms of every appointment that was made at the last meeting, apart from the appointment of the chair of the Democratic Services Committee. So I would like to propose an amendment because I note that one of the significant things that happened on that item was that members of the administration attempted to appoint a member of the executive group to the role of chair of the Democratic Services Committee. This is a role that is effectively in charge of scrutinising the executive. So the amendment I would like to put forward is that the chair invited nominations for the post of chair of Democratic Services. There were 2 nominations for Councillor Lisa Dimmock and Councillor Marion Howells. After considerable discussion and officer intervention, it was ruled that Councillor Howell's nomination was invalid as a member of the executive group is ineligible to hold the position under section 14 of the Local Government Wales Measure 2011. I'm happy to put that in the chat bar, Chair, but I think it's important that our minutes are accurate, and that was quite a considerable act that the administration tried to appoint someone who was ineligible. I thought it was quite humiliating that the council was effectively seconds away from acting unlawfully.
Okay, thank you. That seems to be a pretty factual version of what happened. Thank you. I'm happy to rule that amendment in order, as it does stick to the facts. Thank you.
In the chat bar,
Please do. Yeah.
Sorry, Chair, it needs to be seconded and then put to
All right, apologies.
It is an adjustment to a formal record, so that's what
We need to vote. Okay, I'm told we need a seconder for that and then to put it to the vote. Yeah, we've got plenty of seconders. Councillor Taylor, yeah. Right, and so we put it straight to the vote. Yeah. Hang on, I've got Councillor Howard. Well, you're voting, are you? Okay. Do we need a formal vote? Electronic vote? Yeah. We need an electronic vote. So you're jumping the gun there, Councillor. Right, there's clearly a majority in favour of that amendment, so that's carried. Are there ever any other comments on the accuracy of the minutes?
Yes, Chair, I've got my hand raised.
Sorry, right. Councillor Dimmock, yeah?
Yeah, so on the question where I ask about the leisure centre and the skate parks, it only includes Caldecott Leisure Centre. When I also asked about Chepstow Skate Park, I did raise this with Democratic Services and Cabinet Member Councillor Angela Sandals, and I was assured that the minutes would reflect what was said, and that hasn't happened. So it does need to include Chepstow Skate Park and also the Cabinet Member's response that those issues with regards to the drainage have been rectified.
Okay, I think you'll need to give us some wording. Have you got wording available for the chat?
Okay.
If you can, please. I've had a thumbs up from Councillor Sandals agreeing that she did agree to that. So as long as the wording is appropriate, I can accept the amendment and put it to the vote if we got a seconder. But let's wait for the wording. Yeah. Okay, I'm advised that if the amendment is acceptable to the Cabinet Member concerned, then we can make that change without an actual vote. But we do need to see the wording.
unless there is dissent.
Unless there is dissent, yeah. Right, so have we got the wording up? Yeah. Okay, we're happy with that. Yeah. Any dissent from that amendment? No. Well, that is carried. Right. We'll have another go. Are we happy that I move this as amended twice as an accurate record of the meeting of 15th of May? Yes. Okay. Right. Thank you very much. That's carried. Right. We move on then to item 5, which is reports and the first of these is item 5A, Licensing Act 2025 policy statement, which includes Appendix A, which, if you've not read it, it's a long document, but I advise you to read it if you get the chance. No pun intended, it is quite a sobering read. So, Councillor Sandals, you want to present that?
Diolch, Gadeirydd. Under the Licensing Act 2003, the Council must publish a policy on how the licensing authority will carry out their functions when licensing alcohol, sales, entertainment and late night refreshment between the hours of 2300 and 0500. The policy needs to be published every 5 years, and the report is the proposed renewed policy that must be in place by the 1st of July 2025. The Licensing and Regulatory Committee has viewed this policy on the 28th of January 25. It then went out for consultation during the months of February to March 25. There were no responses to the consultation. However, licensing did receive an amendment to the statistics to be included in section 7.5 of the policy from an Iron Bevan University Health Board public health team. The policy was reviewed working closely with the licensing officers from Torfaen, Caerphilly, Blaenau Gwent and Newport. The revision to the policy is highlighted in red, which has taken into account any legal changes and integrating strategies. The Licensing and Regulatory Committee met again on the 25th of March 2025 and has agreed to the changes in the policy, which is subject to approval here today at full council. Diolch, Gadeirydd.
Thank you, Councillor. I will take any questions if there are any. No? Right, in that case we'll move... Oh, sorry, Councillor Bryn.
Sorry, I was expecting something to come up in the chat, that's okay. I just wanted clarification, if I could, on the issue of public nuisance from litter. The new policy notes that business owners have a duty of care to keep premises and their near vicinity litter-free. Could you clarify if this means that failure to comply to these measures could potentially see a licence revoked? Diolch.
I've not prepared for that, Councillor Bryn. Can I get you an answer in writing, please? Is that okay? Thank you.
Yep, so that's a written response, yeah? Okay, thank you. You're happy with that, Councillor? Thank you. Any other questions? No? Well, we need to approve that formally then. It's just a one recommendation on that one. So that's up ready now. Moving target. Okay, well, very clearly carried, so we will accept that and move on now to 5B, which is separation of licensing functions, and again it's Councillor Sandals.
Diolch eto, Gadeirydd. The existing arrangements for how the Council discharges its licensing functions have been reviewed following consideration of legal advice and guidance. In summary, this report seeks to establish that 1. The current Licensing and Regulatory Committee shall be abolished and its Licensing Act 2003, Gambling Act 2005 and Public Health Wales Act 2017 functions to be allocated to the newly formed Licensing and Gambling Committee, with all other functions to the newly formed Taxi and Regulatory Committee. 2. Each new committee will have its own subcommittee comprising of 3 members, one of which must be the chair or vice chair of parent committee. The subcommittees will have a quorum of 3. The chair and vice chair will be the same person for both committees. 3. For licensing and gambling, L&G, matters, individual applications that fall outside an officer's delegated powers will in the first instance go to the L&G subcommittee for determination. The subcommittee can still refer an application to the full L&G committee for determination. 4. For taxi and regulatory, T&R, matters, individual applications falling outside an officer's delegated powers will in the first instance go to the full T&R committee for determination. The committee can still delegate the determination of an application to a T&R subcommittee if it so chooses. Number 5. This report had already been placed before the current Licensing and Regulatory Committee and has been agreed subject to approval at full council. 6. If approved, the monitoring officer will be instructed to amend the constitution to reflect the changes. Diolch, Cadeirydd.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions? Responses? Councillor Brown.
Yeah, could I just ask that if there are sort of controversial applications, that they are referred to the full licensing and gambling committee rather than just 3 members? Thank you.
I think I'll probably need to check that that's within the Constitution. And again, as per the previous answer, can I get back to you with a written answer, Councillor Brown?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Happy? Any more questions? No? Okay. Well, we've got 4 recommendations there, but we can... Sorry? Oh, sorry. My apologies. Councillor Watts.
Yes, Chair. Sorry, I was just trying to be helpful for clarity, because it doesn't get any more local government than this. If you remember the public, you've been thinking, what on earth is going on, I'm sure. But for us that sit on licensing committee, I to be honest with you, and I do pay attention, I struggled to get my head around the arrangements here. And there was a lot of discussion about those arrangements, but I do believe that they came to the right conclusions. However, just for clarity and to be as helpful, that the same members of the same committee all sit on the same 2 separate committees now, and maybe if I'm wrong, you'll correct me, and then they will be obviously split up accordingly and invited to those meetings, I guess, in an appropriate fashion. That's what I was trying to say, Chair. Does that make any sense?
Councillor Sandals?
Yes, it does. But again, I will take advice, Councillor Watts, obviously because I'm not on that committee. So I just need to check with the officer just to make sure. But it does sound as if you are completely right and all is in order. But thank you.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And a question from Councillor Tudor Thomas?
Yes, diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd. Just to clarify, I chair the licensing meeting. Obviously, Councillor Watts is on that. What Councillor Watts has said is correct. Really, it's a sort of a bureaucratic mechanism. It's exactly the same committee with the same chair and vice chair, etc. So there is no difference. It's more of a bureaucratic change and one for efficiency, but also as well in terms of Councillor Louise Brown's question, the answer is, from my recollection of the meeting, there is that opportunity if a contentious taxi licence applicant is put forward. It can be heard by the whole committee, because the committee felt strongly that that was such an important issue in terms of public safety for the general public. So just a point of clarification. Diolch yn fawr.
Right, thank you for that clarification, Councillor. Are you happy there, Councillor Sandals? Do you need to say anything else?
No, not at all. But thank you to both those councillors who came in with those really useful points for us to note. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see any other hands, so we'll move to a vote. We're voting on all 4 of the recommendations on 5B together, so just the one vote on that, please. Just vote now. Yes, that is clearly carried. Thank you. And we move on then to 5C. Again, Councillor Sandals, and this is on appointing the representatives to serve on outside bodies. I'm sure you've had a close look to make sure you've not suddenly been appointed to something you didn't know about. So, Councillor Sandals.
Diolch eto. Very briefly, at the recent AGM, this council confirmed a number of appointments to outside bodies. Due to changes in responsibilities at cabinet level, there is a need to make amendments to those appointments that are included and summarised in the report that require approval of this council. Diolch.
Thank you. Any questions, responses? Councillor John.
Thank you, Chair. Well, we're setting some precedents at the moment, aren't we? Last month we had the precedent that they tried to put someone in charge of scrutiny from the executive side of the council. Today we have another precedent. So I've been a councillor for nearly 10 years, and in that time I have never known a council anywhere publish a paper for the council AGM, obviously went out on circulation, was published in advance of the meeting. Councillors all had the opportunity to read those papers in advance of the vote. The document was presented to full council by the cabinet member. It was approved, and then it gets brought back. The exact same paper gets brought back to us at the very next meeting for changes that the administration could have made at the AGM. We have always approved this paper at our AGM. So I'm really quite shocked that this is being presented to us again, and the reason given is that there are a number of changes in the roles councillors were appointed to at the AGM. Presumably the cabinet knew what changes they were making to the cabinet at the AGM. Those changes were announced to us before this paper was presented. So I'm really shocked that we're being asked to reconsider the exact same paper that we voted on last time. The paper says that Councillor Grocott is going to replace Councillor Strong on Gavo. I don't see why that is necessarily a change resulting from cabinet portfolios. Clearly, Councillor Wright replacing Councillor Grocott on the EAS, that is a committee of education cabinet members. So why, when you presented this paper, these changes should have been made. Councillor Wright should have been listed on there as the cabinet member for education. Even if it had been a surprise to the Cabinet that Councillor Wright had been appointed Cabinet Member for Education during the meeting, that paper still could have been brought back later in the meeting. There is no reason why we have to vote on this paper twice. So we've now been presented a second version of this paper, which still appears to have some errors in it. So the Chair says, I hope you've looked at it closely. I don't think they've looked at it closely enough. The paper before us now says that Tony Eason, Councillor Eason, was appointed the Monmouthshire Local Access Forum, that he was appointed by the full council on the 1st of May 2025. I don't recall a full council meeting on the 1st of May 2025. It makes no mention of the fact that Councillor Jackie Strong is the council's older people's champion. That role isn't mentioned in there at all. And it also says that Councillor Wright was appointed to the EAS on the 15th of May 2025. Well, obviously she wasn't, which is why this paper's been brought to us today. I just get the impression again and again that cabinet members are coming to this meeting with papers that they haven't bothered to read or scrutinise properly. You're nearly 4 years into this administration now. Why are we still seeing this level of bungling? I don't know how the rest of the Labour group can sit there taking orders from this cabinet, seeing this level of incompetence. So we're going to vote against this report because we're really frustrated that we're not being presented with reports that have been scrutinised by the cabinet in advance. It's really frustrating. We're really annoyed that we're in this position. Whether it's mistakes, oversights, they should be dealt with in advance. So I really hope that papers will be scrutinised better by cabinet members in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sandals.
Thank you, Councillor John. I am sorry that you were so shocked, but I think we've noted your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, I can't see any hands online. Right, so we'll put that to the vote, please. Just the one recommendation then, that council notes the new appointments highlighted in the report and included in the full list of appointments as Appendix A.
Chair, may I make a request, please? I do apologise, but I'm finding it physically painful when Councillor John shouts like that. We can hear you when you speak into the microphone. It actually hurts my ears. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Councillor. Maybe I'll try to speak a little bit quietly, more quietly.
I'm saying nothing. Right, that is clearly carried. Thank you very much. And we move on now then to item 5D, which is the shape and leadership structure of Monmouthshire County Council. And I call on our CEO, Paul Matthews, will be comment on this in a few moments.
Thanks, Chair. The paper you have in front of you is I think, quite an important paper. As you'll have noticed, I try to apply discipline when we're discussing things of this nature so that any officer that may have a direct or indirect benefit or consequence is never in the room and is never inhibits your ability to discuss the things or raise the issues that you want to raise. That is now the case, so I'm satisfied with that. I don't intend to talk at length to this paper. Hopefully it's something that you've had the chance to have a look at in advance, and not only when your agenda came out, but I tried to circulate this a little while before that, and several of you have been in touch with me directly. Thank you for taking the time and the trouble to do that. As the purpose of the paper says, and as was noted by the round of applause earlier in the meeting, it has been a period of some change in the organisation over the course of the last 6 to 8 months, both through my temporary absence, but also through the departures of a few quite significant and senior officers. That's created the opportunity to rethink the layout of the organisation within the current financial constraints that the organisation operates within. This is not a paper that looks to introduce additional cost to the organisation. It looks to introduce the potential for improvement through greater alignment. You'll note when you look at the recommendations that there are 5 of them. The first one is for you to note rather than to agree. The overall design of the organisation falls to me as your head of paid service. Your constitution requires me to present it to you. If your constitution did not require me to present it to you, I would still present it to you because that just feels to be the right thing to do. The other 4 recommendations, 2.2 through 2.5, do require your assent. So it will be a situation whereby you vote on them. If you are minded to agree this paper, you will be agreeing to 2 new chief officer level positions, and I'm being very clear with you that the council will be the appointing body for those 2 positions. So if we proceed forward today, I'll be encouraging you to flex your diaries a little bit around the date of the next council meeting, so that we can perhaps move forward with key appointments and do the business that you need to do anyway in July. Otherwise, it just becomes very difficult, I think, to pull you all together when you have so many competing demands. So I'm just putting that out there. I'm looking to come forward with an approach which is respectful of your time and can achieve what we need to achieve for the organisation. I don't intend running through sections 4 and 5 in detail, but clearly I'm happy to engage in any conversation that you wish to start based on your own particular worldviews or the issues that you want to raise. But in the round, I think what I'm presenting to you is a reasonably measured approach, which is more orientated, I think, in my worldview, to where this organisation needs to go, perhaps, than where it's been. There are some quite significant structural relays. It would be wrong, I think, for you to think that this paper only talks to a handful of the more senior officers in the organisation. Yes, the implications on those might be more significant, but we are an organisation of some 4,000 people. All of those individuals have had the opportunity to input into this paper. A number of their challenges have made, I think, the design put to you today stronger than actually was perhaps in some of my original thinking. It would be fair to say also that not every individual particular perspective has been picked up. Ultimately, you have to form a decision, and the design principles that govern the organisation have to outweigh at times any personal particular interest or perspective that you may have. So Chair, I don't intend saying a lot more by way of introduction, but I'm here at your disposal for you to question me, to challenge me, to explore my thinking if you don't think it's sufficiently covered within the text and the supporting papers, and I look forward to that conversation.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions or responses from Paul's report, please? I think Councillor Brown, are you first, I think?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to, there's a couple of chief officer vacancies at the moment, and if they are internal appointments, in the chart, will their position then be filled whatever, you know, at the sort of, you've got the chief officer and then you've got a list of officers below. That will be refilled, I presume, if it's an internal appointment as opposed to an external one. Thank you.
The answer to that question, Councillor Brown, is possibly. If that's the situation that we end up with, then it gives me more certainty in terms of the skills, the experiences that we have at the, I suppose, the top layer of the organisation, and we'll be able to form a view in terms of whether we need to carry forward with the roles that those individuals had before in their current guise, or perhaps maybe an opportunity presents to rethink some of that. So all I can say, I think, or should say at this point in time, is in my experience, whenever you're running a senior recruitment process, every time an opportunity opens up for reconsideration, that reconsideration should be, time should be taken to make sure that's worked through. But the overall design that I put in the papers for you wouldn't change. I don't want to be drawn any further because I don't want to be positioning myself as having a closed mind to the appointments that you make. Even if you find yourself considering an individual candidate, you're always considering two. My favourite appointment, as some of you will already know, is always non-appointment. Somebody has to beat the benchmark for credibility. I think, Councillor Brown, if I'm drawn too far on that, I fear I might lead you into a position, and I don't want to do that. I want you to have absolute freedom come July in terms of what you do with those key appointments.
Happy with that, Councillor Brown? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just a bit confused because I thought I asked quite a simple question because, you know, for example, if you look at Chief Officer Place and Community Wellbeing vacant, and then if you look at Chief Officer Infrastructure vacant, then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 posts underneath that, and on the other one there's 5 posts underneath that. So I just wanted to know that all the posts in the diagram would be filled. That was all. Thank you.
Okay, let me try being a little bit clearer. I'm not trying to speak into riddles, but I just want to give you freedom to act through it over the course of the next month. I've given you the design of the organisation that I think will stand. I'm not expecting any capacity gaps to appear because you make a decision to make an internal appointment. Does that help?
Yeah, I think I understand that better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Penny-Jones?
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to acknowledge the change to the change of directorate name to Children Learning Skills and Economy Directorate, and thank the Chief Executive for changing it. That's on behalf of all of us who are corporate parents and all the children and young people in our local authority. Thank you.
I think that's a statement rather than a question, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, I think we all thank you for that. We're aware you raised it in a previous meeting, so that's good that that's been sorted out. Thank you. Right. Are there any other hands? I don't see any. Oh, sorry. All right. I got Councillor Taylor. Is it?
Now, is there? There's no speak now. Oh, right. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Right. Okay.
Go on, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask, Paul, why the focus on advertising internally for those chief officer appointments? I'd be grateful if you could set out your rationale for that and why we wouldn't be going externally. Obviously, that doesn't preclude internal candidates applying, but one would obviously want to get the widest possible field to fill those very important roles in the senior leadership team. Thank you.
I think it's a very appropriate question, and thanks for putting it. Hopefully you've captured from the document that what's being suggested is, in the first instance, we consider an internal process. If that is successful and you find candidates that you think are of the desired quality and standard to become part of your strategic leadership team, then we'll conclude the process at that point in time. If you don't, then we will go to an extended market placement. What's my rationale? We have spent time, resource, and we've been very, very careful about the way that we brought what I consider to be some very high caliber individuals to this organisation. We've talked in this chamber several times over the years about the particular approaches that Monmouthshire County Council needs to take to both acquire, develop and celebrate talent. I happen to believe that at the moment in this organisation we have a cadre of heads of service that, in my estimation, are as good as anything that I've seen in my wider travels around the UK and certainly in Wales. So I do think you have the potential, should you want to take it, to recognise that and give those individuals the opportunity within your organisation where they've developed, almost always having started somewhere else, to take the next step in their career. That's an aspect of an approach to succession management that we've tried to have, I think, within the Office of Cardiff for quite some time. There is also a reality for me around timing. I'm very keen for the organisation not to lose impetus at this point in time. Indeed, my expectation of the organisation is that I want standards of delivery to improve and in some areas become more pacey. I'm confident in the capability of the candidates that may come forward from an internal sieve, but I'm also conscious that if that works, we probably save ourselves up to 6 to 9 months in a recruitment process. That is a material consideration to me at the moment. So I carry both of those things when I weigh up the recommendation that I make to you today. I think, regardless of the changes that this council approved in April around senior officer remuneration, I still have to be conscious of the market. I have to be conscious of the particular positions that we're looking at and some of the particular challenges that this organisation has right now. So, for example, and only as an example, continuing to move forward with our replacement local development plan. One of the things that I have to consider is whether I'm going to continue to have the talent available to the organisation to enable you to make the informed decisions that you will want to make, or whether I will potentially be introducing a time delay, which would be a negative feature. So Councillor Councillor Taylor, it's not a precise science. That's my worldview at this present moment in time, but I would go back to a comment that I made in trying to answer Councillor Brown's question in a slight riddle. You always have the opportunity as full council, as we do in any appointments process, to say none of the candidates that present themselves give us the necessary confidence that they will add the quality that we want, in which case I will take that advice of full council and I will extend into a second exercise, which will be a wider market test. That's my answer to your question.
Thank you. I can see Councillor Brocklesby wants to speak. Councillor Howarth, will you just try to draw my attention to Councillor Taylor before? Thank you. Right, Councillor Brocklesby then, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question. I expect every councillor has noted that my name is on the paper as well. And I just wanted to make it clear that Paul and I had long discussions about this and about how the structure of the administration could support us reaching the objectives and the outcomes of the community and corporate plan, and how important it was just after midterm that we were able to do this. Normally, you wouldn't think about this as a leader. Why the opportunity arose now was because, as is laid out in the paper, Paul being away, but various usual changes within an organisation of senior leadership moving on to higher posts. That gave us an opportunity both for reflection, but also to act. And I do endorse how this is being restructured. However, which we also discussed fully, the decision to appoint has to remain with council, and it has to be an open one that we can make the choices that have been laid out by Paul, and that is the role of the council, and I did want to make that clear. Thank you very much, everyone.
Just briefly, and not to deny any further hands or questions, there was one particular point, I hope you don't mind me saying, Councillor Neil, that you raised, which I think is relevant to introduce to the Council in an ongoing dialogue that we were having, which is absolutely appropriate. Councillor Neil asked me the question, what does this mean in terms of the political sort of cabinet relationships? My answer to Councillor Neil was quite straightforward. The proposal here doesn't fetter any arrangements that the leader may want to put in place with her cabinet. They range from holding it exactly where it is now to something that's very, very different. This paper is about the officer construct of the organisation. I would never look to cross a boundary which suggested that I was trying to influence the political design of the organisation. In the same way that Councillor Brocklesby is right, we've had conversations, I've had conversations with many people in this room about this particular paper, but ultimately this paper is for me to put to you, nobody else. I have to be satisfied that I'm attempting to make the best use of the resources that we have available to deliver the priorities of the council. That's what I have to satisfy myself on. Clearly, Councillor Brocklesby, as leader, has to satisfy herself that she has the best political arrangements in place so that those two things dovetail and work well together. So we have talked, but we have different responsibilities, and I just wanted to be absolutely clear with you that this is only about the officer side of the organisation. The political side may not change, it could change, it's ultimately, that's none of my business, and it's not for me to bring to this council today. I hope that's helpful to you, because there have been several of you that have been quite interested in that sort of territory, so I just thought I'd offer that consistent answer.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands, so I think, Councillor Howarth.
Yeah, Chair, may I just ask a couple of questions there? Do you believe that, Paul, that we should actually have a cross-group discussion referenced before proceeding with the next stage? I know the next council meeting is around about the 26th of July. Am I right in saying that? Is that when you aim to bring it back here?
17th July. It's
17th
only
July.
3 weeks. Yeah.
Only 3 weeks. Okay, my fault then. I thought it was 26. That's a summer recess for parents and grandparents, etc. Do you believe leaders should perhaps have a chat? We have had the leader of the council, perhaps leaders opposition groups as well, sit down and just go through some finer details. Thank you.
Councillor Howard, you said you had a couple of questions. Do you have other questions as well? And I'll deal with them all together.
No, that's fine. I just wanted a bit some clarity on the next meeting.
Are you asking me, so therefore you're asking me for a personal view?
I am, yes.
Yeah, in which case my honest answer would be I don't think that's necessary. The reason being, if you're all here, there are 46 of you in the chamber today. You can express your worldview via your vote in a moment. I tried to, I did circulate this paperwork in advance of your committee papers coming out. I tried to give you additional time to reflect on it. The opportunity has been there for all 46 members to pick up direct conversations with me on detail if they wanted to. I say probably 10 or 11 of you have in some way, shape or form. So I think that window of opportunity has been there, Councillor Howarth, and even if we did introduce another circuit, I'm not sure there's anything that would reinforce my position around the design that I'm putting to you. I think it is the best that I can offer you within the resources that we currently have as an organisation. So I think my honest answer would be, I think what's most valuable to the organisation at the moment is impetus. That's why I'm so keen to get this moving today and to arrive at a position where we can settle the organisation as quickly as possible, so our only focus then can be on delivery. That's my honest answer.
Do you want to come back on that, Councillor?
I'm fine, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. No hands as far as I can see, so I think we're in a position to move to a vote, voting as one on all sections of these rather than separately. Okay, that again is very clearly carried with no votes cast. Oh, one against. Yep, please.
Thank you, members, for that. So just to restate, if you can look out in your calendars over the next couple of days for some proposals coming forward for the interview stage of this process. If we miss an opportunity to take it forward in July, then clearly I think, Councillor Howarth, as you say, we really are into the summer recess sort of period, and we could easily find ourselves being into mid to late September before we look to make progress. I actually think that's problematic because I don't think it's good to run an organisation unnecessarily with extended periods of uncertainty. So thank you for that. We'll look to advance in July. Don't be surprised when you find something dropping into your inbox, and it will probably be asking you to perhaps commit a little bit more time on Council Day. We will make an arrangement to make sure that you're appropriately fed and watered between two separate instances of your business. But in terms of appointments, I can't require it, but I would strongly ask that if you can be present in person rather than through a screen, I think that is important for the candidates. I think they have a better opportunity to show of their best. You have a better opportunity if you're in a room to make a collective judgment, and that is what I will be asking of you. There will be two questions. Assuming we have multiple candidates, question one will be, is there somebody here that you deem is appointable? Question two will be, who is that candidate? It just becomes much more straightforward if we can do that business face to face. And if we do have successful candidates, you have the ability as a full council to congratulate them, which is important in such an important career step for the individuals that we're potentially talking about. That's all, Chair.
Thank you. Shall we bring the officers back in before we... someone like to give them a shout?
Chair,
you have. Okay.
Chair, can I just have a moment? It's just our tech experts. Are they around? While our colleagues are coming back in, my laptop's going to shut down and do all sorts in about 20 minutes. Good.
Chair,
Thank you, Chair.
Can I intervene? I've also got the same situation. So in true SRS style, it's about to reboot itself. So who knows if you ever see me again. I've tried to get through on the phone lines, of course, after so, I'm stuck in some strange other world. So cheerio.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Watts. I've been asked not to call a vote on that particular matter. Right, we will bear in mind, I can see there's an IT problem towards the back there and another one over here. So our wonderful IT guys are dealing with it. If you're at home, you might have less luck, but we'll see what we can do. Okay. Just give you time to settle down a moment before we move on to the motion. First motion. And I would remind you, while we're doing that, we've got a lot of business in front of us. There's 2 motions, possibly with amendments, and then an absolute record number of questions. So I would ask you to take on board the words of Polonius in Hamlet, Act 2, Scene 2. It looks like Councillor Neil knows them. When he said, "Brevity is the soul of wit." Please take that into account. Thank you. Right, are we ready to move on? It looks like we've settled. Yes, so the first motion, was it 6-1, is Councillor Marion Howes. And do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Bryn, I see there. So, Councillor Howes, do you want to speak to your motion, please?
Yeah, diolch, Cadeirydd. Thank you, Chair. This council notes the growing problem of roadside litter across Monmouthshire, much of which is the result of litter being discarded from moving vehicles. Therefore, this council resolves that the Cabinet Member for Climate Change formally write to the Welsh Government, specifically the Minister for Climate Change, requesting that legislation be introduced to enable the prosecution or fining of the registered keeper when litter is thrown from a vehicle. Requests that the Welsh Government provide appropriate guidance and resources to local authorities to support effective enforcement of such measures. Fellow councillors, I'm bringing forward this motion that addresses an increasingly visible and frustrating blight on our beautiful county, roadside litter. We all recognise the persistent problem, whether you're driving along the A449, the A40, commuting through our country lanes, or walking along our community roads. It's becoming ever more common to see plastic bottles, fast food wrappers, cans and other debris strewn along our verges. This is not just unsightly, it is a threat to our environment, our wildlife and ultimately our reputation as a clean and green county. Let's be clear, the majority of this roadside litter is not a result of overflowing bins or windblown waste. It is being deliberately discarded from moving vehicles. That is unacceptable, and it is a behaviour that demands a stronger, more coordinated response. This motion proposes 2 clear, sensible steps. First, that the Council formally write to the Welsh Government to request legislation that allows for the prosecution or fining of the vehicle registered keeper when litter is thrown from a vehicle. This is necessary because under the current law, it is often too difficult to prove who actually threw the litter, particularly when it is tossed from a moving car. But if the law allows councils to hold the registered keeper of the vehicle responsible, unless they could identify the actual offender, then we would have a practical enforcement tool that is already being used in parts of England. It would send a clear message: if litter comes from your car, you are accountable. Second, we ask that the Welsh Government provide local authorities with guidance and resources to enforce such measures is effective. It is not enough to legislate, we need support to implement. That might include help with signage, data systems, mobile cameras, or public awareness campaigns. Councils must be equipped to turn good intentions into real outcomes. Colleagues, this is not about being punitive for the sake of it. It's about setting expectations and changing behaviour. Littering from vehicles is one of the most antisocial, avoidable and unnecessary acts we witness on our roads. It undermines the pride people have in their communities and adds to the burden on our already stretched street cleansing teams. Let's remember, this is not about aesthetics. Litter harms wildlife, contaminates soil and waterways, and contributes to microplastic pollution. It costs councils across Wales millions of pounds every year to clean up. Those are public funds that could be better spent on essential services. We have ambitious goals in Monmouthshire to be cleaner, greener, and a zero carbon county. Tackling roadside litter aligns with those values, and it demonstrates that we are serious about upholding them. This motion gives us a chance to lead by example, to be part of a movement that says we won't stand by while our countryside and communities are trashed. I urge you to support this motion, not for the sake of our landscapes, but for the principle that actions have consequences, and communities deserve that respect. Before I close, I want to take a moment to express my thanks to the grounds team for doing their utmost to keep on top of this issue, especially this week in Usk, for the work they have given in preparation for the hundreds of visitors visiting Usk on Saturday and Sunday for the annual Usk Open Gardens weekend. Tickets are available on the day. But more importantly, I'm sure you will join me in offering our gratitude to our many dedicated volunteers across Monmouthshire who go out week on week to give their time to pick up litter from our roadsides, parks and public spaces. Their tireless efforts, often unsung, play an essential role in keeping our county clean and beautiful. They remind us what civic pride looks like in action and why it's so important that we support them with bold policy and strong leadership. Diolch yn fawr pawb.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pavia.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. There's nothing in the chat bar to flag that I'd like to speak, so I raise my hand. Yeah, can I thank Councillor Howells for his motion, but I would like to propose an amendment on behalf of the Conservative group. I think it's a good motion, but I think the wording that I'm going to put forward, and I've sent it to officers in advance, just strengthens what Councillor Howells is asking for, and hopefully what we as a council would like to achieve. So hopefully officers will be able to put that up for colleagues to see, and then I'll. Do you want me to read it, Chair?
Right, sorry, are you actually moving an amendment, are you?
Yes.
You are. Is that in the chat? We're putting it in the chat, no? Yeah. All right, have we got a seconder for that amendment? Yeah, I can see Councillor Murphy, yeah, and Councillor Keir. Take your pick. Right. That's in the chat now. Now, Councillor Howells, do you accept that amendment? Sorry.
Sorry, Chair. Yes, I'm quite happy to accept that.
Right, that's accepted. So that becomes part of the substantive motion now. So we now open debate on that. We've had a seconder for the original one and now for the substantive one already. So open now for debate. I'm looking for hands, and it's is it Councillor Maybe?
Hi. As you can imagine, I wanted to immediately speak as this comes into my portfolio. I think that litter is an issue we're all concerned about and want to see any improvements we can. This motion does in fact support the manifesto that's been put out by the cross-party litter group in the Senedd, so I hope we'll also have cross-party consensus here. Monmouthshire does actually score well on street cleanliness, but we can always do better. We all know that. And those of us who are committed litter pickers are painfully aware of the extent to which this is a behavioural problem. We have a fantastic band of volunteers. We have over 400 known to be active through local groups in Monmouthshire, but also many more who litter pick alone. There's lots of individual litter warriors out there who don't necessarily want to be counted as a member of those groups, but are very, very dedicated. But even with this added to what the county and the town councils, who are very active on this, do, we still see too much litter. And while most of it is coming from people actually just dropping it knowingly, so that is quite shocking. Although we do, we know sometimes litter does get blown around by mistake. I think we've all noticed how bad it is by the roadside, and maybe there is a particular mindset that makes it seem okay to people to throw litter out of car windows. Anyone who has picked up this kind of litter will have noticed the extent to which this is from food on the go, as I've been taught to call it, such as sandwich and crisp packaging, plastic drinks bottles, etc. As Councillor Howells has explained, at the moment in Wales it's the person who throws litter from a vehicle who can be prosecuted, but that isn't easy to identify and provide evidence for. So I'm not particularly happy with the fourth bullet on the amendment, but it would be just too petty and churlish to fight against this. I'm totally with the spirit of this and want to support the motion. But the problem is that fourth bullet is that actually it's difficult, and that's why we're not following that through. So the really important thing here is to push for the change that Councillor Howells has identified around allowing it to be the keeper of the vehicle and not the driver. That really does make it practical and feasible to follow through. And that is very much what Keep Wales Tidy is pushing for as well, who I'm in contact with and talk to about these things. I also particularly appreciate the second bullet in the motion, which is, because we're always stretched with our resources to follow through on these things. So I think that's incredibly important. And then just finally, just to say, I am a regular participant in both the regional and the national ministerial programme board on waste, and we do discuss these issues and share them. And I think a lot of the behavioural side of things is going to need to come from the support at Wales national level. It's really hard for us as a local council to achieve behaviour change on our own. So I support the motion. I slightly preferred the original one, but I would support the amendment as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Pavia.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Can I thank Councillor Howells for acquiescing to the amendment, and obviously it was good to hear the thoughts of the cabinet member on this. It is an issue that affects every ward in this county and across Wales, across the UK in fact. Fills our lay-bys, clogs our verges, blights our towns, and frustrates residents and volunteers, because they really don't want to be out there picking up litter on a weekly, monthly basis. They'd rather do something else more entertaining with their time. But we really count on those teams of volunteers across our county, and particularly in Chepstow. Great work done by Transition Chepstow in terms of collecting litter and keeping on top of some of the real hotspots and supporting our officers in our operatives in doing that. I think the substantive motion now before us acknowledges that there has been deep, long-standing concerns across the chamber about scale and persistence of litter. I think it potentially has got worse since the pandemic. I don't know why that is. I'm sure there'll be some research papers done on that in the near future. but it's also about translating our concern into action, and that's why the additional points have been put in, and I'll sort of give a rationale for why those points are put in. As I said, we don't want to play party politics with this, and I'm pleased that we've got unity on moving this forward. I want to particularly highlight the work a number of my colleagues have done on this within the Conservative group. Councillor Thomas Davis, who's been a tireless advocate for putting this issue front and centre, has been fantastic for our group. I know he's instrumental in securing additional concessions during the 23-24 budget negotiations to ring-fence some additional money to tackle litter hotspots and to restore support neighbourhood services. But as I said, we also need to champion the work that our community and voluntary groups do across our county. Just to the first point again, as I say, I don't think there's any group or party within the council that can solve this problem alone. We do need coordinated enforcement, sustained education and long-term cultural change. That requires collaboration with residents, businesses, schools, town and community councils, and also voluntary groups, and particularly charitable voluntary groups like Keep Wales Tidy. The second point, and as the Cabinet member sort of highlighted, the publication of the Senate's cross-party group on littering, the manifesto of the Senate cross-party group on littering, fly tipping and waste reduction, brought out very, very recently. It really is a compelling and well-evidenced document, not very long, really punching to the point. I would recommend colleagues reading it. It's very much built around the 4 Ds: deterrence, detection, disposal and duty of care. It identifies real legislative gaps and makes clear recommendations, many of which align with what residents in Monmouthshire have been asking us to do as a council for some time. And I think it's our responsibility as particularly representatives of political parties to make every effort at this critical stage while parties are drafting up their manifestos for next year's Welsh parliamentary elections, that we actively advocate to try and get them to prioritise some of those proposals in that document, because they really are worth looking at and worth taking forward. I think that the third point is in relation to Welsh Government acting now, and the long-promised all-in deposit return scheme for Wales remains unimplemented. Obviously, the Welsh Government decided to go its own way and produce an all-Wales scheme. We're still waiting on that. There's been delay. It's committed itself to that, and we've got 9 months left of this Senate term. It does need to make progress on that. Similarly, the National Litter and Fly Tipping Strategy remains unpublished. And as I said, the clock is ticking. If Welsh Government does nothing else this year, it must at least deliver on these commitments, or certainly make progress on the DRS scheme, but certainly publish its strategy. And just in terms of the tweak in terms of the Cabinet Secretary for Climate Change and Rural Affairs, that's just a corrective title change because there's no Minister for Climate Change within the Welsh Government. And the final point, and I hear Councillor Maybe's concerns about the council trying to do everything it can. It's not easy in terms of the operational elements of that. Welsh Government guidance on supports the proactive enforcement using CCTV, video and camera footage is there in the guidance, as well as accessing DVLA vehicle data for roadside offences. And they are encouraging local authorities to be proactive and use fixed penalty notices more assertively. I know in the motion, and again the Cabinet member referenced the legislation in England brought forward by the previous Conservative government enables local authorities to fine registered vehicle keepers when litter is thrown from the car. It does streamline it, and I absolutely appreciate that, and I understand why Wales is looking to lobby for that piece of legislation. It is a useful additional tool, but it isn't the silver bullet either. Local authorities in England do also find challenges of enforcing these powers. It hasn't brought a considerable increase in enforcement. It's down to the local authority to be proactive. So, as I said, we need to be proactively detecting an issue and fix penalty notices where the evidence allows, and publicise successful enforcement actions as well to increase deterrence. And I think that's really, really important. Chair, I just want to make a wider point, and it's about behavioural change. And I think the Cabinet member is absolutely right. Behavioural change at a scale requires national leadership and national investment, national resource. I'm sure colleagues that went to the WLGA conference 2 weeks ago will know the significant pressures within local government finances over the next three to 4 years. Next year there's potentially £500 million black hole in local government.
You have one minute, Councillor, please. 1 minute.
So that it needs to be properly resourced, and that cultural change needs to be driven by national government. So, Chair, thank you very much for allowing me to speak. As I said, the amendments are not ideological, they're practical. They're not critical of the motion. I feel they enhance it. So let's show our residents that we do take their concerns seriously, and we're doing everything that we can to make our communities cleaner and greener. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Keir, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and please forgive my voice. I think I'm suffering from hay fever at the moment. I'm grateful to Councillor Howells as the joint ward member for Llanbadach and Usk for raising this issue, and also recognising that it's not just a local one that we champion on locally. Members may know that we both are probably seen locally as local litter champions, and I'm particularly proud as being the founding member of the current litter group that was set up when I was chair of Usk in Bloom, and which was part of the Wales, Britain and indeed world campaigns, and the work that the local community did formed a major part in the competition success. That format, slightly different, of a 30-minute challenge that we give volunteers just to go down one particular street, has proved to be very popular, rather than say going out for an hour or two wandering around on yourself. The camaraderie involved in that has worked very, very well, and indeed that initial project led to another one which is called Commit to Your Street, which saw local residents who didn't want to come out maybe to the centre of the town but took ownership of their street that they lived in as well. Again, a 30-minute challenge. So I would like publicly to thank the current organisers, Tim and Jane Southern, for their clear enthusiasm to keep Usk as tidy as it possibly can, and to encourage members of the public. And as Councillor Maybe says, the band of volunteers that sit across the whole of Monmouthshire, the number that are there are absolutely vital, but we do so voluntarily, and we do so enthusiastically as well. And if I may give a plug to Wendy's Museum Cafe, who give us a hot cuppa and a free cake afterwards once a month, and they deserve some recognition as well. I'd also like to congratulate Councillor Howells, as although we have mutually agreed different political differences, I'm delighted that he has been on the road to Damascus in this motion, in that this was one that was proposed and adopted by the Conservative Party in 2018. So there is hope for those on the other side of the chamber and online as well. So thank you, Councillor Howells, for that. At a recent meeting of MCC officers, Keep Wales Tidy and Litter Champions, there was, as Councillor Maybe rightly says, absolute pride at what is being undertaken and achieved locally, but frustration at the countryside litter that we've referred to being thrown out of cars, the frustration of the amount of bottles being left on the roadside, and also comments made and asking why the DRS scheme has been delayed by Welsh Government, because it is seen by those such as Keep Wales Tidy and officers and volunteers as an easy win to help alleviate this problem. And certainly there were comments about why has it been kicked down the road until 2027. As Councillor Pavia says, you know, that's going to be down to a new government because of the legislative process that we got at the moment. That frustration was also mentioned about the Welsh Government not taking forward this English model that has been highlighted, that you can find the owner of the vehicle and not actually have to prove who is throwing the litter. Bearing in mind the Welsh Government consultation document called A Litter and Fly Tipping Free Wales paper was issued in January 2021, and here we are now effectively kicking things down the road. There are the frustrations that the administrative red tape of GDPR with regards to DVLA and the licence plates, and whether the addresses are still concurrent, whether the insurance address is current as well. So there are frustrations. As Councillor Pavia says, and Councillor Maybe mentioned, the cross-party manifesto from the Senedd is certainly welcomed, and I hope that the potential of AI-powered CCTV cameras that has been mentioned, dash cam footage and higher fines will act as a deterrent to those that persist in these poor behavioural attitudes that they have. It's a bit like double yellow line parking. In us, the attitudes are just, well, what's the problem? So, Councillor Howells, I'm delighted, and our group as well, that we are in favour of this motion. But I also do think, and I'm glad you've accepted the amendment, because I think it does demonstrate that cross-party agreement, but I also think that the amendment that has been put forward not only strengthens the motion, but gives a true picture of the feeling of members within this group, but also the volunteers, Keep Wales Tidy, and the officers, as we have consistently said time and time again, who work so hard for us in frustrating times. So I'm in favour, and I thank Councillor Howells for bringing this forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thomas Davies, please.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak in favour of this amended motion this afternoon. And let me start where this work is most often delivered, not in council chambers, but in our communities, as we've heard from Councillor Keir and Pavia this afternoon. And to the quiet army of volunteers across Monmouthshire who give up their time to clear our verges, our lay-bys and lanes, we as councillors owe you more than thanks. We now owe you meaningful action. So I strongly support this motion, and I do so as someone who believes we need a step change in both seriousness as well as strategy. Councillor colleagues will recall at a recent members' seminar on this very topic, I called for a more strategic, modelled and costed approach. And I very much welcome the Cabinet members' commitment in response to some of my recommendations to bring forward a paper on this very topic to a future Place Committee meeting. That's a great start, if I may say so, Cabinet member. But as much as I welcome the motion tabled this afternoon, it does rather feel like we've been here before, councillors. As we heard from Councillor Pavia, who was perhaps far too generous in his praise, the Conservative group did secure some additional funding a few years ago to tackle fly tipping and to strengthen enforcement across this county. But whatever became of that investment? What were the results? Not one fixed penalty notice issued last year for littering offences, and just the one successful fly tipping prosecution, if I recall correctly. That's simply not a credible deterrent. Enforcement must match our ambition. So councillors, I ask, has the time come to set the strongest fixed penalty notice levels in Wales of any authority for such littering offences? But by no means, of course, a silver bullet, but what message would that send to our residents? That littering here is unacceptable, that we're no longer indifferent to it, and there are real-world consequences for such action. At the same time, we've also heard about some of the delays, as Councillor Pavia alluded to, with the National Fly Tipping Strategy, the Deposit Return Scheme, as well as the long overdue EPR reforms. And as frustrating as that may be, that can't be an excuse for local inaction. Can't we use this time to pilot new partnerships and initiatives like the successful Welsh Government DRS pilot held in Brecon last year to start conditioning our residents, especially our young residents, for the changes that lie ahead, so that we as an authority are ready to hit the ground running when those national frameworks finally catch up. Meanwhile, colleagues, there are some practical ideas which I've previously shared in that seminar, which I'd like to suggest again today, which could inform a future options paper, all of which I believe to be actionable, deliverable, and could deliver some meaningful results. Firstly, a real-time digital dashboard mapping where litter is being collected across Monmouthshire, and crucially where it isn't. Now, that kind of transparency, colleagues, could do two things. It will build trust on the one hand, and it'll empower our residents. If people can see the areas that this authority is prioritising, they'll then better understand where volunteer efforts are most needed. It's not about passing the buck or shaming anyone. It's about directing civic energy where that civic energy can make the most difference. Second, could we work on a Welsh Government pilot which enables our residents to upload dashcam or mobile phone footage to secure those prosecutions which have eluded this authority, turning that frustration into evidence, multiplying the eyes and ears on our roads to support the authority's enforcement function. Such methods, as many will know, have already been successfully deployed in neighbouring Gloucestershire. Could Monmouthshire lead by example here in Wales? Third, colleagues, we must recognise that litter invites further litter. We must, and I can't emphasise this enough, we must boost the frequency of verge cutting and improve that coordination between lane closures and litter picking related activities. Too often, we've all seen shredded plastic and litter left uncollected on our verges. And with grass cutting mostly confined to the summer months, our verges sit littered throughout the long winter season, where, of course, as we all know all too well, where the elements here in Monmouthshire further compound the volume of loose litter along our roads. Fourth, may I also suggest that we need to be honest with our residents about the baseline service that this authority can realistically provide. If it's only one sweep a year along a rural lane or a biannual visit to a village, do we ever say so publicly? Do we ever communicate that to our residents? And if not, why not? I think that level of transparency could empower communities to complement, not compete, complement with what the council can deliver in terms of its own litter picking and sweeping activities. Fifth, I would encourage this authority to apply some subtle pressure on those community councils which have the resource to step up. Some councils are sitting on significant reserves. Why can't we co-design and co-procure sweeping services alongside our community council partners? If two or more rural councils, for example, collaborate, they could unlock those economies of scale that just might secure that elusive extra mechanical sweeper that, of course, no one community council, let alone MCC, could afford alone. That, in my mind, would be a smarter way of spending our resources. It could maximise the reach and impact of our litter sweeping activities and deliver meaningful results for our residents. Finally, Chair, on behaviour change, organisations such as Hubbub and Litter Lotto are innovating with gamification incentives to influence the behaviour of residents in this space. What conversations has this authority had with those entities, and how can we apply some of that learning, some of that best practice to inform and shape the approaches that we may wish to embark upon as an authority? Chair, in concluding, may I just say, this isn't simply a debate about litter. It's a call, I think, for a smarter, more strategic and more collective approach. Too often, we've salami-sliced budgets, we've reached for short-term pots to patch up the symptoms here and there. What we now need is to take a step back and ask those profound questions. What is the true scale of the challenge? What resources do we have? What is the shortfall in that resource? And what will it take, both legislatively, behaviourally, as well as operationally, to close that gap that's been identified and to drive some meaningful results for our communities and residents? That, if I might say so, Chair, is not pessimism, it's realism. And realism is the best foundation for lasting policy change. I enthusiastically support this amended motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Paul Griffiths.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I also enthusiastically support the motion as amended. I speak as a usually weekly litter pickup and a former member of the board of Keep Wales Tidy. But I also speak as the cabinet member for the economy in Monmouthshire, and I want to speak on behalf of those hundreds of businesses in Monmouthshire which provide what I would define as responsible consumption eating spaces. They provide the traditional cafe, they provide spaces, social spaces where food can be consumed. All too often, they are subject to what I regard as unfair competition by those businesses that provide no such spaces, which sell so-called fast food on the hoof, pre-packaged, and that packaging finding its way irresponsibly, but finding its way into our countryside as a result. So when the Senedd comes back to this, as it says it will, once newly elected, I would like to add something, and I'd like us as the County Council to seek to add something to its agenda, which is not in the current Senedd report, and that is to make provision whereby those fast food businesses without eating spaces are in some way made to internalise the costs of litter, which they are partly responsible for incurring. That may be regarded as a provocative suggestion, but I do think there's a division within this county where responsible food businesses are being outcompeted with those who are not made to share their total responsibility.
Right, thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Councillor Burge.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Councillor Howells, for bringing this motion. Yeah, litter is an absolute blight on our environment. We have 1,000 miles of rights of way in this county. They're beautiful, take you to wonderful places, but all too often they are strewn with litter. And I'd like to thank all the volunteers who go out and keep those rights of way clear and also pick up the litter. Obviously, litter is a risk to livestock in the countryside, and it also gives a very poor impression to visitors visiting our county. I think there are a number of interesting suggestions that have been raised, and I know that the source problems of litter have been much discussed with between Cabinet and SLT. We all see it every day. I was up on Sugarloaf in my ward and picking up other people's takeaway boxes. It's a beautiful place to go and eat your takeaway, but take your takeaway with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see any more hands. I can't hear anybody demanding to speak. Right, so that is down to you, Councillor Howells, to exercise your right of reply.
Chair, is it not Councillor Pavia to respond?
No, my understanding is that because Councillor Howells accepted the amendment, the substantive motion remains with him. I'm getting nods from along here. Yeah. Yeah, Councillor Howells. Yeah, it's Councillor Howells' reply.
Thank you, Chair. Diolch, Cadeirydd. Thank you all, colleagues, for your contributions. It's clear from this debate that we all share a commitment to keeping Monmouthshire clean and protecting our natural environment. I welcome the amendment to the motion. What this motion asks for is not radical, it's practical. It gives us a tool to hold those who litter from vehicles accountable and seek support from Welsh Government to enforce it properly. This is about fairness, responsibility and respect for our communities and our countryside. I hope and I see members will support this motion so we can take a strong, united stand against roadside litter. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. I think we can now move to a vote on this. Should be on your screens shortly. There we go. Right, that's very clearly carried there, so well done, Councillor Howells. Just to say, if you are on the road to Damascus, please take care. It's not the safest place to be at the moment. Right, it is now just about 3:30. I just checked the time on my watch. Okay, it's well, we'll call it 3:30. We'll break now for 10 minutes. Well, we'll make it 11 minutes. We'll start again at 20 to 4. But be on time. There's a lot of business to get through, and it's not fair to members to be kept hanging around. Okay, thank you. You see, I do try. Right, ladies and gentlemen, councillors, if we can call the meeting to order, please. Right. That wasn't a great effort, I have to say, to be back on time from all councillors. So can we try more harder next time, please? Right, so item 6.2 is a motion submitted by Councillor Francis Taylor. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Howarth, thank you. Right, Councillor Taylor, would you like to speak to that motion?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I just for probity, I should probably declare an interest in this item, so that's item 6B, because I am a founder member of the Mega Group, but I don't believe it's anything but anything prejudicial. So, but just so that that's clear. So I'm putting this motion, colleagues, really on behalf of the Mega Action Group on Rail. They're very keen for this to come forward and to get your support on it. Sorry, Chair, I think your microphone's still on. Thank you. Sorry. So I put this motion on behalf of the Mega Action Group on Rail. Colleagues, I forget how many motions I've brought to this council on the topic of Mega with Dundee Walkway Station, and I make absolutely no apologies for it. I will continue to bring motions on this topic until the station is delivered. The members of the Mega Group, and though I do not like the term as it is used so loosely these days, they have worked tirelessly for the past 13 years to bring forward what was once, I think, referred to as flying a kite, I think. But essentially, they have never stopped through the ups and the downs in campaigning for this. And let's be fair, it's been a real David and Goliath battle. They were told to forget it, but look how far we've come. I'm very proud to be a founder member of the group, and indeed the group are so knowledgeable about transport, trains and buses. Over the past 13 years, they have given of their time to the former Strategic Transport Group and more recently to the Transport Forum. Sadly, I struggle to make the Transport Forum because I've got a number of commitments which have fallen at the same time. However, you will recall that 6 years ago, in 2019, cast your mind back before the pandemic, the Welsh Government scrapped the M4 Relief Road. Personally, I was very glad about the decision. It has also been 4 years, unbelievably, since the Burns Commission, in which this council is a key stakeholder, reported on the alternatives to the M4, which naturally included Mega Station. However, sadly, certainly as far as I can work out, none of those alternatives have been delivered. It was therefore extremely pleasing to see that the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, announced some £445 million for rail in Wales. And of course, it would be wonderful to see the relief lines upgraded and all 5 stations delivered. But the real question is when. We do not want jam tomorrow. Even if all the money stated in the spending review went to the 5 new stations and none to the other enhancements, it would be insufficient to cover the cost. The 5 new stations is predicated wholeheartedly on the separate relief lines upgrade project to have been completed. However, there is absolutely no mention of the relief line upgrade in any of the spending review papers. It simply does not appear, and you would have expected it to be listed with the 4 other projects in the £300 million announcement. The Burns 5 new stations assumes the relief line upgrade will have happened, and in question in Transport for Wales, there is no fallback plan should the relief line not happen. It would again be back to the drawing board and we would have to start all over again. So even if the money did not have to be split over 4 projects, of which Burns is only one, it falls falls well short of the required funding for the 5 stations and the relief lines upgrade. This analysis can be attributed to Mr. Phil Inskip. Now, all of you will know Phil. His knowledge, I would imagine, Phil, my learned friend and colleague, probably knows or has forgotten more about rail than any of us will ever know. So the clear message that we want to get across to all stakeholders is not only is Mega Station unique, it is cost effective and it offers integrated public transport solutions. Critically, Mega Station does not need to wait for the mainline enhancements. It could be delivered tomorrow for circa 10 million. And so the answer, friends, is to build Mega with Dundee Walkway Station now, as it doesn't require the work on the relief line upgrade and could be served by the 2 existing hourly stopping services, Cardiff to Cheltenham and Cardiff to Taunton, with only minor adjustments to existing timetabling. And critically, this would demonstrate action, not just talk, and still remain totally compatible when and if the 4 remaining stations could be delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I have a hand from Councillor Maybe.
Thank you. May I propose a slight amendment to the motion? I've put my proposal into the chat. And shall I oh, I'm sorry. Is it not there? Why is that not?
It will come up now that it's been proposed.
Thank you.
It doesn't go up until it's been. No, there we go. Okay, right. Can we see if we have
a second
a seconder for that? Sorry.
Chair, I thought as a seconder to the original motion, I'd be allowed to say a few words. No.
Okay.
Well, is there
you can do that if you want, or you can come in later, depending on whether the amendment has been accepted or not.
Sorry, Chair.
Do you want to speak now, Councillor Howe?
I think it's important, even if there is an amendment on the basis of this. As a seconder, I'd just like to say a few words to support the motion.
So you want to speak now?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay, we'll allow you to speak now.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. Very quiet today for me. I'd just like to say that I support the motion, even though we may get an amendment. Councillor Taylor and the group of enthusiasts in Mega have been, as far as I'm concerned, the beg bore of my life for many years on the basis of Mega Station. Chief Executive may back me up on that, because I think all we had was Mega Station for many years. He even bought her husband and herself a rail card because I got fed up of hearing about Mega Station. So Councillor Taylor and many others in Mega have kept Mega Station alive. She's quite rightly saying that it was not on the agenda. It is highly top of the agenda now. And I urge Transport for Wales, I urge the Welsh Government, and I urge this Council to push Mega Station to the forefront and to number 1 of the list of upgrades. It's ready, 10 million, that's all it is, and I think we'll see Mega Station delivered. But this Council needs to support what we're going to do at Mega and do it now, and urge the Welsh Government to shove it to the top of the agenda for the first station and the first modernisation within the realms of what they can do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, we've had an amendment proposed by Councillor Maybe. I didn't get as far as asking for a seconder. Have we got a seconder?
Did you not hear me, Chair?
Second?
Seconded it.
I was seconded by Councillor Bond. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Taylor, do you accept the amendment or not?
I do not accept the amendment. I think it changes the nature of the motion, and this motion is not about clarifying the timescale. There is no timescale for the relief line upgrade. That's very clear. So no, I do not accept the motion.
Okay. Well, I've moved the motion. I will rule that the amendment is in order. It's not been accepted, so we will now debate the amendment. Councillor Maybe.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, you don't debate the amendment until we accept the amendment, surely?
No, you've rejected the amendment.
Yeah.
Therefore, we have to debate the amendment to see if that will be incorporated into the substantive motion. If the amendment falls, your original motion will be debated. If the amendment stands, the substantive motion will be debated. Is that okay? Yeah. Thank you. Right.
Thank you.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'll attempt to address the amendment and the motion in one, because I don't think I'll get another chance to speak after that. Is that correct, Chair?
No, that's not correct.
Oh, okay.
At the moment, you're speaking purely to the amendment.
Okay.
If the amendment falls or is carried, you'll then be allowed to speak to whatever motion we end up with.
Thank
there.
you.
And
Thank
that
you.
applies, for example, to others who speak to the amendment.
Okay. So I will try and explain. I don't have any disagreement with the motion that's been put forward, and have been also working tirelessly to support the mega station throughout the period I've been here, and as have all officers and cabinet members at all levels, actually. And even in this last week, I believe I've had 3 or 4 meetings about it. I've spoken with the RMP, with the Cabinet Secretary, with the MS in Newport. We've been, and with the Burns Commission, we've all spoken together and trying to get this through. The relief lines bit of it, the only reason I'm putting this in amendment is just slight clarification, because what we understand from Department for Transport, who ultimately are the ones with their hands on the money for the relief lines upgrade, certainly, and for the 5 stations, is that the relief lines upgrade is there on the radar, and it's just that's why I'd like to push for the time frame on that, to know exactly when it's going to happen. It's not being ignored, it's not being forgotten. So that is incredibly important. Now, in terms of Magos Station itself, absolutely, that its construction and the way it's being put forward by the Mega Group does not depend on the relief lines upgrade having been done. However, I think for it to be really viable in the long term, it does need the relief lines upgrade to have been done, because you need to have full interoperability between the main line and the relief lines, because we will have the freight, we will have the fast trains, and we'll have the stopping trains. And there is always a fear that the stopping trains will be put at the bottom of the pile, and you won't get that full interoperability and that frequency and affordability to make it a really going concern in the long term. So I completely agree. We want our Magos Station done. We want to get it done and make sure that it gets in as soon as possible. But its construction can be done without the relief lines, but we need the relief lines upgrade as well in the longer term. So on that basis, we're so pleased about the comprehensive spending review. We know that we're going to get more details in about a month's time. That's what it says in the review. So I know it's a little bit vague and top level in the way it's been stated at the moment, but those discussions are going on all the time. And our MP particularly has been speaking with Lord Hendy, at DFT, who is ultimately probably the most important. We're talking with Ken Skates and lobbying him constantly. So that round and round discussion is happening. So really my attempt here is just to slightly clarify that and pin it down a little bit more clearly, given what I know about the discussions we've had literally over the last 2 weeks, let alone in the last few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Let's see what hands I've got. Sorry, it's very small on my screen, so I think it's Councillor Crook, please.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the option of saying something about Mega Station. I also have been a member of the group for a very long period of time, and I'm totally committed that we need the station, and we need it as quick as possible. But clearly, on the meeting that we had with Ken Skates last Tuesday, he clearly told us that it's not his role, and we were all supporting that meeting, and we asked loads of questions. And clearly, we have to now make sure that our MP acts quickly, going back to Westminster, to make sure that they completely understand the implications and the aspirations, and how important it is for Mega Station to have a priority as far as possible over any other stations that we are looking for in Wales. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't see any other hands? No? That does surprise me slightly. So we can now move to a vote on the amendment, which is in front of you. You know, had time to look at it. Yeah, we're waiting for the vote to come up. Right, I think we've still got 5 councillors present who need to vote, even if you're abstaining. Somebody do the maths for me. That's 41, 42. Check that you've clicked on submit vote and that it says your response was sent to the app. Anybody having problems?
Councillor Lane. Chair,
Right.
looks like it's having a problem.
All right, Councillor Lane having problems. Okay. Well, at present it's tied on 22-22. We'll have to do a roll call vote. Yeah, so I can't use my casting vote at this stage. It's a roll call vote. Okay. Whatever way, it would be within, even if Councillor Lane now votes, it would be within 2 votes. And as I understand it, if it's within 2 votes, we always have a roll call. Have I got that right? Yeah, got that right. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Councillor Bond.
For the amendment.
Councillor Brocklesby.
For the amendment.
Councillor Bromfield. Against. Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Bryn. Against. Councillor Buckler. Rachel.
Against. Against.
Councillor Birch.
For the amendment.
Councillor Butler.
Against.
Councillor Callard.
For.
Councillor Chandler.
For the amendment.
Councillor Crook.
For the amendment.
Councillor Davis.
Against.
Councillor Dimmock.
Against.
Councillor Eason.
For.
Councillor Edwards.
Against the amendment.
Councillor Newell.
Against.
Councillor Garrett.
Sorry, for.
Councillor Garrick.
For.
Councillor Griffiths.
For.
Councillor Graucut.
For.
Councillor Howarth.
Against.
Councillor Howells.
For.
Councillor John.
Against.
Councillor David Jones.
Against the amendment.
Councillor Penny Jones.
Against.
Councillor Keir.
Against.
Councillor Lane. Councillor Lane.
Against.
Councillor Lucas.
Against.
Councillor Maybe.
For.
Councillor McConnell.
For.
Councillor McKenna.
Against.
Councillor Murphy.
Against.
Councillor Neal.
Against.
Councillor Pavia.
Against.
Councillor Powell.
Against.
Councillor Riley. She's not there. Okay, Councillor Rook.
For.
Councillor Sandals.
For.
Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Jackie Strong.
For.
Councillor Peter Strong.
For.
Councillor Taylor.
Against.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
Councillor Watts.
Chair, I haven't had my camera on. It's not been working properly. I'm going to have to be absolutely honest.
Yeah.
I can't vote.
I agree.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Webb.
Against.
And Councillor Wright.
4.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We have for the amendment 21 votes, against the amendment 23. So the amendment falls. We'll now move on to debate the motion as it originally stood. So that's open to anybody to speak. I think except Councillors Taylor and Howarth, who've already spoken to it, but Councillor Taylor will get her right to reply, of course. Councillor Dimmock, please.
Thank you, Chair. The Monmouthshire Conservative Group would like to support Councillor Taylor's motion, which calls on Monmouthshire Council to take a lead as a key stakeholder to ensure the delivery of Mega Station. Like we've heard already, the station that is ready to go, community-backed and aligned with our wider sustainable transport ambitions. Mega Station does not need to wait. It is not reliant on upgrades, and the opportunity exists now. If key stakeholders are willing to work together and act swiftly and bring the right people around the table. This isn't just what about Monmouthshire can do, it's about how we bring all parties, including Welsh Government, Transport for Wales and UK Government and Network Rail into alignment. And we need leadership at ministerial level from figures like Ken Skates, who understands the urgency of the model shift and the need for modal shift and the need for deliverable wins that communities can see and feel. His support, along with others in Welsh Government, are key, and his leadership in progressing new stations and service delivery and working for Transport for Wales in his ministerial remit does fall within his gift. We know Mega Station is shovel ready, is a grassroots success story championed by Mega Station, Mega Action Group on Rail. And I would like to pay tribute to the shining examples for a community-led determination for over a decade from Mr. Paul Turner, Mr. Ted Hand, Mr. Lawrence Hando, Mr. Peter and Mrs. Julie Wilson, and of course, Councillor Taylor. It would be the first walkway station in the UK designed without a car park, prioritising local access and active travel. Mega Station is ready, cost-effective, community-led and aligned with national and local priorities. What it needs now is political will and coordinated support. And Monmouthshire must lead where it can. And we need to call on colleagues in government, again, especially Mr. Ken Skates, to recognise the strategic opportunity to help deliver this station. So I welcome Councillor Taylor's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm looking for other hands. I don't see any. No? Oh, hang on. No, that's Councillor Dimmock again. Oh, yes, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you. I'd like to speak again if that's possible. Yeah, a bit disappointed. I felt like that was a voting against for the sake of being against, given that we're actually on the same page, and it's just a clarification. But I'll explain again why. We absolutely welcome the recent comprehensive spending review announcement of much needed investment in rail in Wales. It's of crucial importance to us in Monmouthshire because it includes the new stations on the South Wales line, one of which is the Mega Walkway station. The actual building of the stations will take time with detailed designs and planning, etc., needed before actual construction, but we've reached a really important milestone, which is that the money is now committed, and this is something to celebrate. We understand that the previous government made promises about rail investment, but without the money behind it. This is a tribute to immense efforts of all concerned, in particular, of course, the campaigning over many years of the Magor Group, but also the work of the County Council officers here in Monmouthshire and this administration in lobbying for this at every level and for the consistent support of the chairman of the Burns Delivery Group. We really have all worked together consistently on this. At the Senedd, John Griffiths has been a strong supporter, as has the Cabinet Secretary. Let us not forget, however, that rail is not devolved and the big money decisions are made at UK government. Progress on this really has stepped up. It really has stepped up since our new Labour government came in, and our MP, Catherine Fuchs, was able to raise the profile of MEGA with ministers in the Department of Transport. Along with Councillors Crook and Sandoz, I attended a meeting with Welsh Government and our MP just 2 days ago, where the Cabinet Secretary restated his commitment to seeing the delivery of the 2 stations, along with the 5 stations, along with the line upgrades. I was surprised that Councillor Taylor did not attend. The Cabinet Secretary confirmed to us that the 5 stations and the relief lines upgrade are all seen as part of the essential package of works to improve South East Wales rail provision, and that he aims to get the detail and timelines over the coming weeks. This confirms what we understood from the Comprehensive Spending Review. Our MP has already written to Lord Hendy to request this information and highlight MEGA yet again just in the last few days. Just to explain again how this works, 2 sets of lines go through MEGA, the main line and the freight line. The freight is slower. Freight is known as relief lines. To go as fast as wanted for passenger trains, the relief lines will need to be upgraded. To have enough capacity for fast intercity trains, stopping trains and freight, full interoperability between these lines would be ideal. Without it, it's likely to be tricky to run enough stopping trains without getting in the way of the fast ones. What we need is sufficient capacity and flexibility for a stopping service as well as fast intercity trains and freight, without which adequate train frequencies to facilitate modal shift and service viability may not in fact happen. That's why the relief lines upgrade as well as the new stations is so important in an integrated plan for South East Wales Rail. As I mentioned, it's important to recognise the funding will come from UK government. We understand that the economic case for the MEGA station is accepted by the decision makers as one of the set of 5 stations, and here in Monmouthshire we will continue to do everything we can to make sure our MEGA station is one of the first to be built and does not lose out to other stations in the more densely populated areas. But for Monmouthshire County Council, do not forget, we have concerns for transport across the county. It's also important for us to remember that this is one part of a jigsaw of measures we want to see delivered, which we continue to fight for and argue for at every level. Officers, ourselves as Cabinet, the leader, the deputy leader, myself, in all opportunities, including access to Seven Tunnel Junction with the M48 road link, the active travel routes across Sevenside and the footbridge from the car park. These all fit together to make this thing work. So in conclusion, disappointed that people didn't come with me on that little bit of logic to improve what I think, clarify the motion, but I still can wholeheartedly support it and support the campaign, and we'll continue to work at all levels to see this implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I see any hands? I think not. Therefore, Councillor Taylor, you're right to reply.
Thank you, Chair. I think, to be clear, I don't have any problem with something separate, talking about the relief lines upgrade, but the whole point is MEGA station is not reliant. I was clear in my narrative that actually it'd be marvellous to see 5 new stations along the main line. What we cannot do is afford to wait. We've already waited too long. To be clear, the relief line project does not appear in a list of items in the spending review, nor as a developed project in the rail enhancement pipeline, nor as one of the enhancements in the Network Rail Wales and West business plan for the present control period to 2029. We have already waited too long. Arguably, MEGA station could have and should have been constructed and delivered immediately following the Burns Commission report. The fact that it hasn't been is a disappointment. The fact that now the money is there and could be used to develop and deliver that's the station. I don't want to lose the opportunity. We're not waiting for the relief lines. We need it done now. But of course, absolutely support the fact that is an enhancement that needs to happen for the whole of South East Wales. However, the work of those campaigners that Councillor Dimmock mentioned, I don't doubt the amount of work that's gone in from some of our council officers. We've had brilliant support. We've had cross-party support, both here in the Senedd and in the UK government. That's not in question. What's in question is there's no time for talk. There's just no time for talk. We also have the issue, which is a question I note later, about the Severn Bridge. Coming today, the traffic going along around the mega interchange is significant. We cannot wait. These are all known things. These are foreseeable. The fact that governments successive of any political colour haven't delivered as yet is not, it's not my issue. It's not the issue of the mega campaign group either. And we're not here to do a party political broadcast about what has or hasn't been done. We're here to say, let's play our part, let's get it done, and let's get it delivered. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor. We can now move to a vote on motion 6.2. I'll give it a moment to see if we can achieve total unanimity. It's possible we got technical problems. No? Somebody asleep? Oh, 43, 44. One more? Have we got one more? Councillor Watt probably not being allowed to vote. Okay, I think we can call that unanimous then. So thank you very much, councillors, for that. Right, we're doing very well. We will now move on to item 7, members' questions. As I say, a record number, so please think Polonius when you're doing this. I will point out that slight change to who's answering some of these questions as we put them over to the most relevant cabinet members. So 7.3 will be answered by Councillor Paul Griffiths. 7.7, I think, is Councillor Birch, yep, and there's one more somewhere. Oh yes, 7.16 is Councillor Sandals. Right, so the first one then, please, let me go back to it, is from Councillor Howells to Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, Chair. Can the Cabinet Member for Social Care, Safeguarding and Accessible Health Services give an update on the progress made to implement the recommendations from the review into My Day, My Life and the associated accessibility improvements that were to be made to the Melville Centre for the Arts in Abergavenny and the Overmonnow Learning Centre in Monmouth?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Howells, for asking about My Day, My Life. It's been a while since I accepted in full all of the recommendations from the independent review, so this is a good opportunity for me to update members and the public on how the implementation of the change has gone. Perhaps most significantly, the remodelling of the service has been completed with a new staffing structure. This has merged the former My Day, My Life with the individual support service team to create one integrated service, which is called My Support Service. And this provides a range of support to adults with a learning disability and to people with other disabilities and mental health needs. The service now offers support during evenings and weekends instead of the traditional 9-to-5 schedule, and this change required adjusting employment terms and conditions and hiring new staff under updated contracts. The support offered by this new service is individually tailored to deliver the outcomes agreed within people's social work assessments, and will either be short-term with a re-ablement focus or longer-term. We support people to gain independence, to develop skills, and to enable their participation in meaningful activities that help achieve their personal goals and development. And this support may be solely community-based and or within one of the service bases. The My Support Service has reinstated the original principle of person-centred planning that was recommended in the review, and it's incorporated approaches that support people in expressing their needs and desires. So this includes methods such as easy read materials, sign language, creative activities and photo symbols. There's a robust referral pathway and assessment to ensure that the person is part of identifying the outcomes. Now, the proposals for the new bases for the service gained much attention last year, and I was very pleased to recently visit the new bases in the Melville Centre for the Arts in Abergavenny and the Overmono Learning Centre in Monmouth. Both buildings are now fully accessible, with accessible toilet facilities and changing facilities having been installed for the benefit of all members of the community and not just service users. And both are conveniently located near to the town centres, ensuring easy access, which is a great asset, I think, to our county. Within each of the venues, comfortable and attractive rooms have been set up for the exclusive use of the My Support Service, so that those individuals that are supported by the service have secure and personal spaces to meet up with friends and to undertake activities. The venues also offer various other spaces.
15 seconds.
Yeah, the venues offer various other spaces for different activities, and certainly when I visited the Melville, it was great to meet service users in the centre's cafe and enjoying music and dance activities in the theatre area. So just in conclusion, so I think Monmouthshire's disabled adults should have the support they need to be an integral and visible part of our community, and I believe this is what we've achieved, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a supplementary from Councillor Howells?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Chandler. Just a supplementary for me is how will those being supported by My Day, My Life be affected by the closure of Abergavenny Leisure Centre over part of the summer?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Howells, and thank you for sharing with me in advance what your supplementary question is going to be so that I can give a full and accurate answer. I believe that shows that you have residents' interests at heart in seeking answers rather than using it to make political speeches or to try and catch out cabinet members. So I can confirm, in answer to your question, that the closure of Abergavenny Leisure Centre impacts on 3 individuals who are part of the My Support Service, and these individuals will be supported to travel to alternative leisure facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. You caught me on the hop there by answering so quickly. Right, so we move on to 7.2 from County Councillor Pavia to Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Chair. Could the administration please provide an update on the implementation of the HGV weight restrictions on the M48 Severn Bridge?
Yeah, of course. Just to recap, from the 27th of May, restrictions were placed for vehicles over 7.5 tonnes, except for emergency service and timetable public transport. So I think we're all uncomfortably aware of that. There are at present no arrangements for any other discretionary use. For example, based on geographical location, ease of use of volumes of company traffic. I know that's been in the discussion, but nothing has been done on that. Nothing's been arranged on that. The other bit of update: enforcement was by traffic police initially before technology number plate recognition was deployed, but I understand that technology has now been installed. How useful it is will depend a lot on police back office capacity to enforce, as with so many of the things we deal with. But that's the information I can actually give you. National Highways and County Council officers are meeting on a weekly basis. They did have planning meetings in advance to ensure that things were implemented correctly and communicated. And as you know, National Highways came to our Public Service Scrutiny Committee on May the 12th and attended Monmouthshire County Council Transport Forum on June the 6th. The County Council did contact many of the local hauliers to listen to their concerns and relay them to National Highways, and our Deputy Leader himself has met a lot with local businesses and taken their concerns to decision makers, as have I, the Leader, and our MP. We've emphasised the impact on the local economy and the job losses that may occur, with over 2,500 jobs at risk at Newhouse alone, equivalent to the potential job losses at Scunthorpe Steelworks, as Councillor Griffiths pointed out, and I have made that point myself as well, having picked that up as a really shocking statistic, and that every month of delay allows leases to end and relocations to take place to elsewhere in Europe. So we're extremely concerned. I met with the Minister for Future Roads at UK Government, together with our MP, on the 3rd of June, where we emphasised these impacts on the local economy, and in particular the potential loss of jobs at Newhouse. And we also highlighted the impact of the local road on the local road network and our big concerns about the motorway junction roundabout by Magor. These concerns have also, of course, been communicated to Welsh Government, and I joined the Leader and Deputy Leader in meeting the Cabinet Secretary last week, where we also again emphasised the importance of the M48 link road. All of these things interact. We have received a letter back from the Minister for Future Roads at Westminster, dated 24th of June, indicating that the concerns have been taken on board.
15 seconds, please.
Thank you. They aim to find solutions to enable normal traffic movements to resume in late 2026. This letter does show that our lobbying has had an impact, because that has brought forward their original intentions and what they suggested. And I've run out of time, but I think the rest of it, you know, that the bigger solutions are extremely expensive. We've put in place diversions to deal with the M4 bridge potentially being closed. So there you are. There's probably a supplementary.
Thank you. Do we have a supplementary, Councillor?
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and can I thank the Cabinet Member for a response. And I also welcome the update circulated by the Council Leader on this matter as well earlier this week, the letter that our MP received from Government. It's clear that enforcement issues have arisen over this first month, and I agree with the Cabinet Member. I hope Highways Agency and police address this quickly, and I know Councillor Watts has sort of highlighted this issue as well publicly. Anecdotally, I believe, and my residents believe, that there are more HGVs using the A48 through the air quality management area at Hardwick Hill. But I would like to sort of capture the monitoring evidence to verify this. I'm concerned about the impact on my residents in terms of those who live in that air quality management area. Are we taking measurements this week from our monitoring stations in and around the zone to check for increased nitrate and oxide levels? And if so, will the data be shared with councillors? Thanks, Chair.
I'll find out. I don't have that answer at my fingertips, but of course, if we are doing so, I will share that data. Thanks.
Right, thank you for that, Councillor. Right, move on to 7.3, which is Councillor Pavia again, this time to Councillor Griffiths.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Could the administration please provide an update on the discussions held with the with national governments and Network Rail regarding investments in improvements to Chepstow Railway Station?
Right, Councillor Griffiths.
Thanks very much, Councillor Pavia. The bid to the Levelling Up Fund was prepared during 2020 to 22. It was limited to providing an opportunity for buses to turn round at Chepstow Station, and it included a consequential loss of car parking. Since the allocation was announced by the UK government in 2024, I and others in the council have been in close dialogue with UK government, seeking to expand the remit of the original allocation. We want Chepstow Station, and we want this funding to lead to Chepstow Station moving towards its full potential as a hub which attracts travellers and businesses to Chepstow. So in the time between the allocation and now, we have been working on a further agreement with UK government, which will allow the expenditure to be flexed so that it can include an enhanced station environment, potentially including public toilets and waiting facilities. Improved walking and wheeling routes from the station into town and further afield with enhanced signage. And also, it can be flexed potentially to include access to land for increased car park. My intention is to bring a full report to the July meeting of this council, where I'll be seeking approval for the required matched funding and providing further details of this investment. In advance, I'm looking to provide a briefing note to members and to arrange a meeting for members so that I can fully explain how the bid has developed, how the project is developing, and the funding implications of it.
Thank you, Councillor. And a supplementary?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And can I thank the Cabinet Member for his response? That seems a really positive move forward. I know that Network Rail is still in breach of its Disability Discrimination Act responsibilities by not addressing the access issues regarding the westbound platform. I remember back in 2020, Network Rail coming to one of the committees of this council and providing an update on its capital works programme, and at that point they were suggesting that it wouldn't be addressed until 2025. Well, 2025 is here, and I can see there is a significant amount of track work taking place over the summer and autumn period. As a resident living close to the railway network, that I've received a letter in that regard. But as Councillor Griffiths has said, you know, there is land, Network Rail land, adjacent to the westbound platform that could be made into additional car parking space, especially for those with disabled parking blue badges, and a small amount of re-engineering work would allow access to that platform from that side. So can the Cabinet Member confirm that is part of the bid's consideration, that there will be accessibility to the westbound platform from that side of the track? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Griffiths.
Unfortunately, I'm unable to give that commitment. I find it as shocking as everyone else that over the past 2 decades, Network Rail has been able to operate stations without disabled access. It has a programme of improvement. The Abergavenny station has been part of that programme, but we've not got a date for an upgrade at Chepstow. On a weekly basis, I look lustfully at the barely used land on the westbound platform. But again, I've had to conclude that it would not be possible to get agreement from Network Rail on the same timetable as we need an agreement with UK government on the use of the Levelling Up Fund. So we will make best use of that money in the here and now, and we will continue over the next decade to put every pressure on Network Rail to release and make best use of the land on that westbound platform, and to provide the disabled access which residents and visitors of Chepstow desperately need.
Right, thank you, Councillor Harth. We now move on to 7.4, which is Councillor Neil to Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Chair. Would the Cabinet Member please provide an update on plans for the permanent engineering works required to restore the chain bridge at Kemmis Commander to full working order, including removal of the temporary 7.5 tonne weight restriction?
Yes, certainly. The County Council are working with consultants on the detailed design for repairing this bridge at the moment. The work has been complicated by the major landslip on the adjacent road, Chain Bridge to Buttersnowith. Our aim is for the contractors to undertake both schemes at the same time, and for design and planning to be completed to allow a construction phase to commence in spring next year and complete the following spring. spring 2027. It's hoped that the bridge can remain as a 7.5 tonne weight restriction until that construction phase starts. During construction, of course, the bridge will be closed and an official diversion signed via the A472, A449, R64 and A4042 is required. The local R60, Lancao to Clyther Road, will have improvements carried out during the autumn of 2025 to facilitate local traffic and not be signed as a diversion. Okay.
Thank you. Supplementary?
Yes, thank you, and that's a really helpful update. We have learned from the weight restriction of the 7.5 tonne that many heavy, large vehicles have diverted from the B4598 onto the old Raglan Road and then heading south through Bettesnoeth, and it's a narrow road, particularly unsuitable to heavy and large vehicles. And really, I think we can learn a lot from this experience just now for what will be an extended, as you indicate, at least 1 year construction period. And this is just a relatively small village, a small community, and many of the residents there have expressed their concerns to me in regard to traffic that is completely unsuitable, thundering through sometimes at unlawful speeds. And the alternative routes, I think you've specified some of those, Councillor Maybe. I think the alternatives will be very important to install at an early stage so that drivers are not caught closer to the Chain Bridge and then make a decision to divert through Bettesnoeth. So either through heading south via the A40, A449, or via the A4042, A470, which I think you've referenced. So can I please request that the information and the experience is put to good use, and that speed warnings and speed checks are also introduced north and south of Bettesnoeth, but that the signage is appropriately located at an early enough stage to allow drivers to divert more appropriately. Thank you very much.
Yeah, certainly. I've taken note of all of those points, well made, and we'll relay them to officers and discuss trying to do that as well as possible. Thanks, Councillor Neil.
Thank you, councillors. So we now move on to 7.5, County Councillor Buckler to Councillor Laura Wright.
Thank you, Chair. Would the Cabinet member for Councillor Laura Wright, for Cabinet Member for Education, make a statement on the breadth of choice in subjects for Key Stage 5 pupils at Chepstow School? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Buckler. It's nice to get started on my first set of questions as a new Cabinet member. So before I get into the specifics of Chepstow School, I do just want to say that I absolutely recognise the importance of our post-16 education and sustaining as broad an offer as we can across all 4 of our secondary phase schools. The Key Stage 5 provision in Chepstow is affected by several different factors, which includes the number of pupils enrolled in the statutory age school and also the ability for students to access other post-16 options nearby in both England and Wales. At a recent meeting that we had with Chepstow School, the head teacher shared that the school has had to pause a number of its post-16 courses due to low take-up. This had been planned for a number of months, and it was shared with parents and students as early as possible. Excuse me. The school is in a significant deficit at the moment, and unfortunately it's not economical to run those very low number of enrolment courses because it has a detrimental impact on the whole school budget. But on a more positive note, the school is going to retain the skills to teach the courses that are currently paused, and as pupil numbers increase, it's the intention of the school to restart those courses as soon as possible. The head teacher does understand that some parents and students are, of course, disappointed, but I know that the school is continuing to support all students and offer a range of courses as much as possible. In order to support the offer in Chepstow and in all of our secondary schools, we have a collaborative post-16 network that's now approaching the end of its first year, and it's seen the successful delivery of 4 different courses through the innovative eSchool remote learning platform, and these are computer science, economics, Welsh as a second language, and Spanish. and these have not been consistently available across all 4 of our secondary schools previously. Chepstow was able to enrol learners in both economics and computer science, which hadn't been previously available at all at their school. And as these courses move into the A2 year, we are looking forward to welcoming a new cohort in September.
Thank you. Supplementary, Councillor?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Wright. Actually, you mentioned that parents were made aware of the diminishing number of courses as soon as possible. I know that students actually put their choices forward and were told when they'd made their choices that they wouldn't be available. There's one particular which I would have thought would be quite a sort of, a common choice for pupils, would be that geography is explicitly recognised by the Russell Group as a key facilitating subject, one that keeps options open for university and is highly valued in careers. Sorry, I've got problems with my eyes today. Highly valued in careers ranging from global economics and business to law, human rights and international relations. How can the decision to remove geography as an option for key stage 5 pupils at Chepstow possibly be justified? This subject was included in the prospectus and pupils applied in good faith, yet they were later told it would not run, due, as you say, to fewer than 10 students selecting it. What message does this send about our commitment to academic breadth and ambitions for our young people? Does the Cabinet member believe it is acceptable that because of this narrowing of subject choice, a growing number of students are now considering leaving Monmouthshire to attend sixth forms like Wydene, causing disruption, stress and added pressure for families?
I think we've got about 3 questions there. Should only be 1, but we'll let Councillor Wright respond as best she can.
Thank you, Councillor. Some of that specific information I simply don't have at this point. That is a decision that lies with the head teacher and the governors, and not with me as Cabinet member nor other councillors, as you know. That said, I am going to be in Chepstow School on the 4th of July, meeting with the head teacher. I'm sure this is something she'd be happy to discuss further, and I can pass any information on to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right, different versions of the agenda have got the question numbers in slightly different order here. Now, the version that I've got will be 7.6 will be Councillor Bromfield, 7.7 will be Councillor Bond, 7.8 will be Councillor Edwards. So just give you a bit of advance warning on that. Is that okay with those councillors? Yep. Okay, so 7.6 from Councillor Bromfield to Councillor Maybe, please.
Thank you. Can the Cabinet member please provide me an update with the issue of speeding in Langibby?
Yes, certainly. I'm glad I was able to discuss your concerns last week. And I understand that now that the key problem areas are at the entry and exit to the village, and in particular where children cross close to the new housing estate. I take on board your comment about the timing of the speed monitoring and agree that it needs to be done again. We will also ask GoSafe to take enforcement action. In terms of additional physical measures, it's not fully clear what measures would help, but beyond the SIDS and road markings already in place. But we've got a Teams meeting now with the traffic team to talk about that and try and get some clarification. Thank you.
Supplementary?
Yeah, thank you for that. Obviously, I'm aware of everything that you've said, and I do welcome a meeting next week. I would say with GoSafe, you know, I do appreciate you making representation to them, but in the last year they visited Langibby 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times in 12 months, and it does need something further. You know, MCC have a duty of care here. We know that there is a significant issue with speeding at either end of the village, and you know, we need to be taking a proactive response. So I would very much appreciate it if you would please back my request for something permanent either side of the village at our meeting with Highways. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have anything further to add except just to, I do take that on board. We just got to try and identify exactly what will work and where we can do that. Okay, thanks.
Right, thank you. Just before we move on, I understand that when asking the initial question, a bit of context is sometimes needed, hence you get your 3 minutes. But when you come on to the supplementary question, maybe a sharper response, sharper question, rather than too much context around it. Okay, so thank you. We'll move on to 7.7, which is Councillor Bond, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. So, different to what you've just explained, I've got some information and already discussed it with Councillor Birch. So I've got more detail about why I'm raising this question in the supplementary. So it will be a little bit longer. Sorry, I didn't understand that was the way forward. My question is, mobility scooters are of great benefit to people with disabilities and mobility restrictions in Monmouthshire. Please can you set out how the council is helping mobility scooter users to stay safe within our communities? There's been a particular incident in Caldecott which indicates that there's a wider issue which I would like some action taken on, but I'll discuss that in the supplementary if okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bond. I think you're raising an important issue. I mean, mobility scooters are of great assistance to older people and people with disabilities in keeping their independence. And in everything we do in active travel, we're very conscious, whether it's dropped curbs, crossings, shared use paths, any of the active travel interventions that we really are designing from everybody from pushchair to mobility scooter and everybody in between. I know that you raised councillors raised the issue of training in the use of mobility scooters at a recent member seminar, and I'm hopeful that that's something we can look at alongside the cycle training offer that is provided in schools and to young people and indeed to adults. I'm sorry, I've lost my thread there. Other than that, I know that the two shop mobility schemes in Monmouthshire provide the opportunity to try out a mobility scooter and to have instruction on its use. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Okay, we'll take the supplementary. I will cut you some slack because you've explained in advance the situation. But just to bear in mind that there's a 3-minute limit and we do expect a question at least at the end of it. So thanks, Councillor.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Councillor Birch. So this question was prompted by the ongoing suffering of a resident in the ward that I represent, who has sustained life-changing injuries from an incident in February in a Caldecott supermarket with a mobility scooter. The resident may not walk unaided again. There has been little investigation and action after the incident, and mobility aids such as a stair lift and other things had to be sought. The resident has only just been able to become mobile, but is very restricted and has lost confidence cognitively and physically. To emphasise, there has been little investigation and opportunity for justice and closure afforded to this resident. It appears that this is not an isolated case. Many collisions and near misses have been anecdotally shared by others since supporting this resident and helping to find the resolution, especially in enclosed spaces such as supermarkets. So my question is, I ask on behalf of the residents of Monmouthshire, and particularly this resident, please can this council write to our MP and MSs maybe, and ask them to raise the issues around scooter safety for drivers and pedestrians, and for consideration to be given to 1, whether the incident should be investigated by the police as an accident, the Gov.uk states that prosecution could result if accidents were due to poor eyesight, but how would they know if it's not investigated? Number 2, consider whether there should be a clear guidance for establishments to share if they are liable for incidents on their premises, and the need to risk assess and offer alternatives as is apparent in some cases, such as shop wheelchairs or stores' own scooters, etc. Number 3, consider whether public liability insurance should be extended to class 2 and 3 pathway scooters as compulsory as it is for heavier and roadworthy scooters, knowing that many scooter users use the road. And number 4, the last one, consider whether more regulation and consider whether more regulation and capability checks, especially after an incident and ongoing periodic checks, would be relevant for all users of motorised vehicles, not just at purchase, all of which can cause injury to drivers and other members of the public. So my question is, could this be taken forward, please, and ask for a review and consideration of those points to make everyone, drivers of mobility scooters and residents, pedestrians, safer? Thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Maybe? Sorry, Councillor Birch, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Maybe. Thank you, Chair. I think we would all want to extend our commiserations. That sounds like a really dreadful accident and just shows how any accident can have life-changing consequences. It does, from your account, it did happen on private premises of a supermarket, and I think the owners of any public facility need to consider what their policy is on allowing mobility scooters to be used on the premises, or whether they need to offer an alternative arrangement. With regards to any kind of regulatory matters or with regarding the use of scooters, that obviously lies outside the purview of this council. But I would be happy to work with you to raise those concerns upwards to the Senedd and to our MP.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Move on to 7.8, Councillor Edwards to Councillor Laura Wright.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can the Cabinet Member for Education inform Council of any proposed future investment the current administration intends to make in both Chepstow School and the Dale Primary School in their current form, which has remained an unanswered question since full Council met in January of this year?
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I'm sorry for the delay with it. Sorry, I've got to look for... It feels rude to talk to you with my back to you, but I need to face the microphone. Anyway, yes, so I'm sorry with the delay for this information that you did request some months ago. I would like to reassure you that ahead of the renewal plans, the Council has continued to invest in both Chepstow and the Dale Primary School. Despite the inevitable limitations of a maintenance budget, both schools will continue to be maintained as they have previously. I can also confirm that improvement works to improve the demountable classrooms at the Dell and the ongoing replacement of cladding in Chepstow School will continue during the summer holidays this year. In relation to future capital investment in the Chepstow cluster, Chepstow School has been included in the draft 9-year rolling programme, which has been submitted to the Welsh Government, and the work has been undertaken by Sustainable Communities for Learning team to redline Chepstow School site and, redline the Chepstow School site to determine its development potential. So this does provide us with a range of options for the redevelopment of education provision in the north of Chepstow, and officers will be meeting councillors from Chepstow on the 14th of July to share the projections and the work that's been undertaken to date.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wright, and obviously we wish you well in your new role as well, and thank you for not mentioning Abergavenny in your answer. In fact, you've stunned me that I'm not even going to ask my supplementary now. So thank you very much, and I hope the meeting in July goes well. Thank you.
Better move on swiftly, I think. Right, so thank you. That's now 7.9, which is Councillor Edwards again, this time to Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you, Chair. Can the Cabinet Member provide an update on the Welsh Transport Appraisal Guidance WELTAG study that was commissioned to look at the potential design for improvements at High Beach Roundabout in Chepstow?
Councillor Griffiths.
Thanks, Councillor Edwards, for the question. The WELTAG study has progressed according to the nationally set out methodology. All possible options for improving the movement of people, the movement of goods through Chepstow are being identified and appraised. I anticipated that this would be an elongated process. I have been taken aback by how long the process is. Once the study results in proposals for change, there will be a local public consultation. I have already assured members in each part of Chepstow and the surrounding areas, including Shire Newton and St Arfans, that they will be included in the consideration of any proposals for change.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths, for your response, which sort of partly answers what I asked, but I'm slightly concerned as well. I understand that an interim report was produced and more work commissioned. I'm assuming that's what you were referring to, in that this is proved to be longer than planned. And that was before the council meeting back in January, when my colleague Councillor Brown last raised concern with you, and especially the fact that local councillors were not being engaged with. You mentioned last time that the public engagement with the process is primarily regarded as a professional process. However, you did mention that any findings will be shared with councillors, and I'm sad to say that has not been the case so far when documents have been produced, and we are now 6 months down the line since that meeting. I mean, High Beach has been mentioned so many times by many of us. My colleague, Councillor Pavia, raised this issue twice last year with within the topic of improving Chepstow's transport infrastructure, and you talked about the existing working group that was in place between the council, presumably cabinet members and officers, and Welsh Government back in April 2024, when you'd already held 4 meetings. So that aside for a moment, we've all emphasised the critical importance of High Beach in your proposals for your RLDP, which is obviously having difficulties as it's been pushed back for 6 months and will be next discussed later on in the year. So therefore, I'm asking you now for a date of when local councillors will be invited to be briefed on what's been going on, and to be able to contribute on that important issue, which you've partly answered, and for a date of when we will actually be provided with existing documentation, that draft report, for instance, that was mentioned back in January, and any relevant reports or analysis that has been produced since. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Griffiths.
Yeah, thanks for that. If I had previously mentioned a draft report, then my language would have been loose. I don't recognise that phrase. The WELTAG study is commissioned by Welsh Government. There is a client and contractor relationship between Welsh Government and a consultancy undertaking the appraisal of options. The consultant reports back to Welsh Government, and Welsh Government shares those reports with officers and myself on occasion at Monmouthshire County Council. Those reports back have been received. The work is ongoing. We have not reached the stage where there is a report that makes proposals. When we reach that stage, those proposals will be published and subject to public consultation.
Thank you, Councillor. We'll now move on to... Sorry.
If I could just clarify that for Councillor Griffiths. The draft report was mentioned at the full council meeting and is in the minutes.
Thank you for the clarification. Right, we now move on to 7.10. Councillor Newell to Councillor Chandler.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll do mine the right way round as instructed, so I don't get told off. A tiny bit of context. In my ward in Monmouth, our ambulance station closed down roughly 13 years ago when it was sadly condemned and not fit for purpose anymore. Our paramedics and amazing ambulance staff now work in a porter cabin, and of course we're going to have winter soon. It's drafty and it leaks. In the very best spirit of wanting to work with the cabinet member and all my county council colleagues in Monmouth, would the cabinet member just update me and my residents about discussions you've had about plans for a new ambulance station in Monmouth?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Newell, for asking me this question, because you're right, the future of Monmouth Ambulance Station is an important issue of concern for residents in Monmouth and the surrounding areas, including the ward that I represent. And as sure you're aware, last November the Welsh Ambulance Service NHS Trust signed off a proposal for rebuilding the ambulance station, and that news was very welcome at the time. Since then, MCC planning officers have been in discussions with WAST, the Welsh Ambulance Services Trust, and provided them with pre-application advice to inform a detailed planning application. I've now have to say that WAST have now assessed the options available to them and have decided to press ahead with the repair and refurbishment of the existing building. So in my latest exchange with them, they tell me, and I'm quoting, quote, "We are currently scoping out what we can do with the internal structure with our design team. And once we have the final design, following further discussion and refinement, we will be developing the specifications and going out to tender for the work. Our project board is very supportive of the refurbishment option, and we will continue to work closely with planning and building control colleagues as required, and that we are hopeful that the necessary refurbishment work can begin in the early autumn, with an ambition to complete the project by the end of this financial year, recognising this could be subject to change contingent on a range of factors." So, end quote. So hopefully that is reassuring. I should certainly keep in close contact with the Trust on their plans and timelines, but in my view I think it's very positive that we should have a newly refurbished and fully functional ambulance station in Monmouth within the next 9 months. I think that's a cause for great celebration. I'll be celebrating when it's actually open, but great reassurance, I think, is the word I'm grasping for.
Great hope. Councillor Newell, supplementary.
I'm grateful to the Cabinet member. Thank you for that really good answer, the thorough answer. And if there's anything I can do to help you as the ward councillor, please do tap me up, and I will support you in any way to deliver this for our residents. So no need for a supplementary question, because it was such a good answer, and I thank the member for it.
Thank you, Councillor Newell, and I'll be happy to keep you in touch with any progress. Thanks.
Right, thank you. So, you're doing really well. So I'm going to try and get through to the end of the questions and the end of the meeting without another break, if we possibly can. But I'm aware that unless you're about to ask a question or about to answer a question, you're not required in the same sense as you are if there's a motion on. So if you do need to individually take a break, a comfort break, or to stretch creaky bones, please feel free to do so. So we move on then to 7:11. Councillor John to Councillor Maybe. You are busy today, Councillor Maybe.
Yeah. Thank you. I hope this volume's okay for everyone. By the end of this year, how much will the council have spent on the Great Wall of Clydach?
When the road collapse occurred, to the extent that it was unsafe, the County Council installed locked gates and Harris fencing to ensure the safety of residents and visitors. That initial work cost less than £2,000. However, it was repeatedly vandalised. This led to the installation of the metal fence to make the area safe. We have an obligation to ensure safety, it's not optional. This work will have cost around £42,000. The changes that will then be made to make it more visually acceptable, given the understandable upset about the way it looked, are expected to cost around £22,000. However, the steel fence will be reused, stored and reused, so in effect some of the cost will be recovered. And please note that this work may not have been necessary had the simple closure affected by the initial lock gates arrangement not been vandalised. So at least part of the cost might be understood as the cost of vandalism, unfortunately. Please also be aware that the need to fully secure the area was in order to avoid the risk of serious injury and death, given the condition of this road since parts of it had collapsed into the quarry below. People had been seen on the road unaware that the ground underneath it had been eroded. If further collapse occurred while they were on that road, they would have fallen to their deaths. So in assessing the expenditure and anticipating a complaint about it, please remember that saving lives is our priority and assess the cost of doing that and think of that in those terms. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. So £66,000 has been spent on that fence this year. I visited it recently with Councillor Howarth and Councillor Bromfield, and it's absolutely hideous. It's 7 foot high, it's got huge metal spikes on the top, and there is a real sense that a significant amount of money has been wasted here. How do you quantify the amount of spending on this that was unnecessary? Obviously appreciate that lives are important, but there is clearly wastage here. How much money do you feel was unnecessary on this, and what steps is the Cabinet taking to ensure that we're not going to see huge scales of money wasted on this scale again?
As I've said, had no vandalism occurred, the cost would have been £2,000. I would put back to you, really, the question as to how much you think saving a life is worth, if you think that that's an over expenditure. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, a supplementary question from the Cabinet Minister there, Cabinet Member there. Okay, next question, 712 from Councillor Newell to Councillor Maybe again.
Thanks again, Chair. And again, I'll just a tiny bit of context, which I'm sure that all of us councillors have got in our wards. I'm getting many reports from residents in my ward about trees that are on MCC or MHA properties that are overgrown and damaged in their own private properties. So much so that the internet is damaged, or telephone lines, no mobile phones, no real lights going into their living rooms, and in one house in Cloudy they've got damp problems. And in all fairness to the MCC tree team, they've been out, but they are reluctant to trim back these trees, and of course we don't want to damage and cut down any trees. But I do feel we have a duty to our residents who are paying mortgages and house insurance, etc. So in view of, again, wanting to work with my my colleagues opposite, to County Councillor Maybe, how can we best help our residents that have overgrown trees from adjoining MHA and MCC properties overhanging and damaging their privately owned properties while staying and respecting the rules set in MCC's tree policy? And I thank you.
Thanks. Just to clarify, the question was, how can we best help them when it's adjoining MHA properties and private property, not county council property?
They're both, actually. I think I forgot to add in MCC, but it's both types of properties where we're reluctant to trim down trees that are on MHA and MCC. Thank you.
Okay, so slightly different issue there. So just to highlight, residents are entitled to prune branches or have them pruned when they overhang their properties. Those ones that overhang, whoever owns the other property. So if it actually overhangs your property, you're entitled to trim what's overhanging your property. The County Council tree policy outlines the law and explains that relating to it. That isn't just County Council that have that law. And the need, obviously, to balance the tree owner's right not to have the tree unduly damaged. So you've got to do it carefully. In most situations, that is easily achieved, but there are always disputes. So the tree policy, as well as explaining that's in the law, also explains that the County Council will prune County Council-owned trees where they are causing damage to built infrastructure, such as people's houses, obviously. And our team are contracted to undertake tree safety assessments of housing association trees as well. We can do that if we're required, if we're requested to do so, and we can make recommendations then in line with our tree policy. If MHA trees are causing damage, then our inspections will pick that up and will make the appropriate recommendations. And by and large, the Housing Association will then contact us and say, please, will you carry out the work? But it's their property, so we can only do that with their approval. So if there are any specific concerns, that the best approach would be to contact the Housing Association in the first instance for their property and to check the most recent assessment or ask us to carry out a fresh one to check. We do sometimes have residents contact us, as they often don't know who owns the trees. Sometimes they don't even know who owns the neighbouring property, and that, we try and help them to sort that out. We would then liaise with the Housing Association if it's theirs to organise a review and inspection. So if residents want to raise an issue, I think probably the best thing is to ask them to use the tree form on My Monmouthshire, so the system all gets initiated by that. And then they can actually also call the contact centre if they don't want to do that online. Thank you.
Councillor Newell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Maybe. That's a great answer again. And I just wondered if it would help, and whether you would agree with me, maybe we could put something into the public domain just to break down the rules so that nobody's breaking any laws or anything, just for ease of use. I just wondered if that's something we may be able to do. Thanks very much.
I think that's what the tree policy tries to do. It tries to explain what the current law is and then what we can do in addition. But have another look at it, Councillor Newell, and if there are particular things you think are unclear, and by all means, please do, direct residents to it. Okay, thank you.
I'm grateful. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Right, move on then to question 13, County Councillor Louise Brown to Councillor Laura Wright.
Thank you, Chair. My question to County Councillor Laura Wright, Cabinet Member for Education. Will the Home to School Transport Policy consultation for 2026-27 be delayed as not covered on the People's Scrutiny Committee agenda of the 17th of June 2025?
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So, as you may know, the Welsh Government is currently undertaking a consultation on proposed changes to the Learner Travel Operational Guidance. So we have decided not to make any changes to home to school transport policy for the academic year 26-27 while that consultation is underway. And when the new guidance is finalised, we will review our policy to ensure that it aligns.
Councillor Brown.
Yes, thank you. That's a relief to hear that there's no changes, as parents are already dealing with changes from the last year that are being implemented at the moment. When will the parents be notified that there's going to be no changes to the policy for 26-27? And in terms of parents' notification, can I have the Cabinet members' reassurance that any appeals in relation to the 2025-26 policy will be expedited, as some have only just heard of have only just been notified for a September start, and obviously, they want to know what the situation is if they appeal. And in relation to the point that you actually made earlier, will the People Committee actually be looking at this consultation, because it is changing I noticed that, and it is changing the learner measure travel thing, and I think it ends in September or something like that from memory. So I think it would be useful if that was actually on the agenda of the People Committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to work through those in reverse order, and I'm afraid I didn't write them down, so I might need to ask you to repeat a couple of those if you don't mind. First of all, in terms of will the People's Scrutiny Committee look at it, as you know, I was chair of People's Scrutiny until very recently, and something I did say to colleagues on that committee then, and I will say again, is that it is up to non-cabinet member councillors, it is up to people who are not part of the executive to set their own agenda for a scrutiny committee. And if there's something that you wish to see on the agenda, absolutely encourage you to bring it forward. I don't see a reason why the chair would not be happy to include that on the agenda. But that's something for you to decide as a committee, and not for me to tell you what to ask. I'm sorry, could you remind me of your other points?
The other point was about when will parents be notified that there's going to be, because obviously some parents were expecting a consultation for not for this year, but for the next year's policy, and they haven't been, as far as I know, notified that the policy is going to stay the same as it is currently. So when will they be notified about that? Because obviously the policy has to be published by the 1st of October in each year, and they may be wondering, well, what's happening next year? And they haven't heard anything. So that was the second part of the question. And shall I go on to the third one after that one?
Please, yeah, if you take them in order. The truth is, Councillor, I don't know the answer to that at this point. You know, I am only 5 weeks into the role, and some of that information, Deb Hill-Howells actually will take this on. Thank you.
In terms of the question relating to when we will let parents know, we will update our website to demonstrate that the new policy has not changed, and we'll also arrange for an email to be sent to all parents to confirm there will be no changes.
Yeah, thank you. The third part of the question was about the fact that some parents have only just been notified that they may not be getting school transport, so therefore they may want to appeal. And I just wanted to ask if that would be expedited because of the fact that it is a September start.
Yes, Councillor, they will be expedited. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would remind councillors, although I'm cutting them some slack, the standing orders say the supplementary should be a single question. We can cunningly ask them in a way that it looks like a single question if we're careful, but I'd prefer that you try to ask a single question as a supplementary. So, Councillor Brown again for number 14, I think we are, aren't we? Yep.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Again, a question to County Councillor Laura Wright, Cabinet Member for Education. Will the administration comment on how effectively it feels it has supported the leadership and the functioning of the Standing Advisory Council for RE/RVE, SACRE/SAC? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. You are putting me through my paces today. So I would like to take this opportunity to reassure Council that I do understand the importance of a vibrant and engaged SAC in Monmouthshire, and we need to recognise the breadth of religious and spiritual perspectives that we have in Monmouthshire and allow our schools to provide our young people with as comprehensive and compelling a curriculum as possible. I do regret that the last meeting of SAC, which would have been my first as chair, did have to be cancelled. And as you know, this was due to both of us needing to participate in the People's Scrutiny Committee's review of the decision to provide a lease establishing a mosque in Abergavenny. This did lead to some things that I needed to address with residents as the ward member at very short notice, but I am sorry for that. As members will be aware, the decision to award the lease to Monmouthshire Muslim Community Association is a decision that we reaffirmed at Cabinet yesterday, and it is something that I believe will provide an excellent learning opportunity for children and young people across Monmouthshire. Supported by officers and school-based staff, I will do everything that I can to ensure that SAC will be the body we need it to be in times when the understanding and acceptance of a range of religious beliefs and spiritual perspectives has never been more important.
Yes, thank you. I have been disappointed with the commitment of the administration to the leadership of SAC. Whilst I understand there has been some temporary health reasons, out of 14 main meetings, only half were chaired by the administration, 29% by the vice chair, and 21% cancelled. And there are only 4 or 5 meetings a year, on a few occasions not attended pre-meetings. The new cabinet member, I appreciate that she's apologised, but appears to be starting in the same way by even postponing the meeting on the 11th of June on the same day and rearranging for the 2nd of July, when members who regularly attend may not be able to do so.
Sorry, was there a question?
I take these. Can I just? I'm coming to the question at the end. I'm only going to be a short time. Yeah, thank you, Chair. I take these meetings seriously, even attending and chairing whilst on holiday, when I didn't realise I was going to until the meeting itself. We were at last hoping to welcome more representatives, including teachers, and it's an important time in view of the curriculum changes. It has taken the leadership 2 years to add on a new member whose circumstances have now changed. As this is an added-on responsibility, would the administration like to allow the opposition to chair SAC instead, as allowed by paragraph 10.1 of the Constitution, and bearing in mind that there are other responsibilities for the Cabinet Member for Education, including, for example, attending EAS meetings? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. That's quite a lot to address. As you say, sometimes cancellations are unavoidable. Sometimes somebody is unable to chair due to their health or unforeseen circumstances. I will endeavour to see that that's not the case for me, but none of us can promise exactly where life will take us. I'm not too sure, to be honest, about your point relating to changing the chair and the point in that in the Constitution. I simply don't have enough experience of SAC and its function at this point. It isn't something I've sat on previously. I can take this away for discussion. I'm happy to discuss this with you, outside of this meeting. I don't think I can give you a more comprehensive answer than that at the moment, to be entirely honest.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right, move on now to question 15. Councillor Keir, please, to Councillor Maybe.
Thank you very much, Chair. Usk Bridge has had a Grade 2 listing since 1954, having commenced its construction in 1746, and now has been repeatedly hit by HGVs. Can the Cabinet Member please advise, over the past 10 years, how many times the bridge has been damaged, the cost of repairs, how many reparation claims were made by Monmouthshire County Council against the haulage firms, and from those claims, how much has been reclaimed? Thank you.
HGVs and our little towns and our ancient bridges, I think I've said before, I think there's quite a serious mismatch here, and we have a big problem, not just in Usk. The damage to the listed structure is a major concern. It's a frequent occurrence. We seek to obtain vehicle ownership details from the police, etc., when it's damaged. The principal structural engineer assesses each incident before pursuing the vehicle owners for costs. Consideration to the value of the repair, the registered country of the vehicle is made before costs are attempted to be pursued. It seems that the average repair costs are between 8,000 and 10,000, but some are as little as a few £100s. So you asked for a lot of details, and officers ran around trying to pull something together. It was quite an interesting discussion, actually. They said that in the past, they haven't pursued the claims a great deal in the previous administration, in fact, probably not at all. But in most recent years, they've tried to more, because not necessarily because that the costs are achievable. Sometimes they're so the amounts are so small that it costs more to pursue, basically. But there's a recognition now that by doing this, we might impact on behaviour a little bit and make the hauliers more careful. So there's a slight shift in thinking, do you know what? We might not ever get the money back. We put a lot of time in, but it might be worth doing just to show, actually, this matters. So what data I can find, and we've actually scrabbled together something going back to about 2004. So in the last 10 years, there were about 15 recorded incidents where the wall has been damaged. And as I say, some of that's minimal, and the cost of pursuing it outweighs the potential claim. The total amount of repairs looks like it's around 57,000 over those 10 years. I don't have any data about successful claims. I don't have that data, so that's the best I could do, I'm afraid. But yeah, it's an issue, and I wish we could find a way to put this right.
Thank you very much, Councillor. It's interesting the point you made. Since the change of administration, there's been a change of county councillors, and I think Councillor Howells and I have been fairly much on the ball on this particular point. One of the key things I've always been looking to do is to build relationships with officers in relation to issues within our town, and I know that you are concerned about safety, etc. So can I ask that in relation to Usk Bridge, because there has been, it appears to me, and I'm loath to criticise officers, but to give constructive feedback, there is a reticence to come out and actually see what the issue is and why the bridge actually gets damaged, and particularly as now the CCTV that was in Usk Police Station has now been decommissioned, so that the evidence against hauliers is no longer available. But that also coincides with safety issues on Monmouth Road, where the new roadworks, the request for a drop curb for a disabled person was refused, and that person now on a motorised scooter now has to go down the main road with a speeding area. And also at Usk Primary School, where the fence there has been demolished 3 times, and officers reluctantly, I have asked them to have site visits. So could I ask that you could arrange for a site visit with officers, with you at Usk Bridge, Usk Primary School on Monmouth Road, to assess the safety issues that has come about, and which the members of the public are constantly asking Councillor Howells and I about. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Oh, you're catching me out there, Councillor. So, where were we? We're now on question 16, amazingly. So, this is Councillor Keir again, this time to Councillor Sandals.
Thank you, Chair. You will know I heeded your advice and only asked one question, and I appreciate Councillor May's direct response.
You did move it far away from Usk Bridge, right down to the primary school.
It's my prerogative, Chair. There we go. Thank you. In light of the recent announcement that Monmouthshire County Council receive a share of £5 million of Welsh Government funding to refurbish, improve and create play spaces across the county, what consideration has the Cabinet Member given to improving the play facilities at Usk Island, which have been damaged by heavy flooding from the adjacent River Usk? Thank you.
Diolch am eich cwestiwn, Cynghorydd Keir. Thank you for the question, Councillor Keir. It's great news about the £5 million, isn't it? And, you know, that it's being spent wisely across the county. The fixed play park located near to the River Usk is known to experience seasonal flooding, with significant incidents recorded during the storms Dennis and Bert. Any future development or investment at this site must obviously be designed to withstand and accommodate the impacts of flooding so that we can ensure long-term resilience and usability. In 2019, Monmouthshire undertook an independent play value assessment of all its fixed play areas, revealing that many sites scored low in play value and would require significant investment to meet modern standards. While current financial pressures make large-scale investment in play facilities particularly challenging, there are notable successes where the Council, in partnership with town and community councils, has successfully secured joint funding to upgrade play parks across the county. It's crucial, however, that any funding and decisions regarding investments in refurbishments of fixed play areas across the county is aligned with our Monmouthshire Play Sufficiency Assessment, and that will focus on Matter B, providing for diverse needs, ensuring that play opportunities are inclusive and encourage all children, regardless of ability or background, to play and interact together. Matter C, that there's space available for children to play. We'll conduct access audits of all designated play spaces to assess safety, accessibility and play value, and implement improvements where needed. And then, of course, Matter H, community engagement and participation. We need to engage in wide consultation with children, families and stakeholders so that we can understand their views and enhance local play opportunities opportunities through collaboration. In June, you will know that People Scrutiny received a presentation from officers representing the Monmouthshire Play Strategy Group, outlining the Monmouthshire Play Opportunities for All report and the associated play spaces and playgrounds capital funding proposal. The Cabinet will review the committee's feedback and is expected to make a final decision on the approval of the report and associated investment in July. The Council, through their play sufficiency assessment, continue to provide children with better opportunities to play within their local communities, as we know that promoting healthier and more active and attractive, I'm sure, lifestyles and well-being is a priority for all of us. I hope that answers your...
Councillor Newell.
Councillor Newell, if you want to ask a supplementary question, that's a new novel way, Chair.
I apologise. It might only be 5:30, but it's still been a long afternoon.
Thank you very much. Yes, I was aware of the paper that was submitted to the People's Committee. I was disappointed that no consultation had been made to myself. I don't know, I haven't had a chance to speak to Councillor Howells, whether you had any representations made to you about this paper. So I would say on your behalf, you're disappointed as well. The paper refers to Usk Play Park as being the best ranked play value site in Monmouthshire. I wonder if you are looking at the same play park area, because I would suggest that refers to the one that was renewed some 4 or 5 years ago, and I would agree that is. What I was referring to here is the island one, and again, I would urge, you say 2019, I would urge you to come and have a look with us to see the state of it. I don't wish to cause a commotion that it would be closed, but if you went and saw it, you would be disappointed. So can I ask, therefore, that you and officers could visit this site so you can see specifically what I and concerned residents and parents are complaining to us about, and why heavy investment is needed along the lines of the 5 points you made? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yes, and it was. The actual highest ranked one is actually Maryport Street, which has had significant investment, as you will know, and that is actually the highest ranking one out of all our play areas, whereas Usk Island, certainly that's the one that is very low ranking and needs lots. I'd really be happy to come on a visit. I've got a visit booked with Councillor Watts and other Chepstow councillors very soon, because they've asked me, will I come and have a look and sort of make their case around the area. I'd be happy to come, and I'm sure we can sort that out if you're happy with that. Yeah.
Thank you, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of Councillor Howells as well, that we would welcome that, wouldn't we?
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both. Right, well, that concludes the proceedings for today. We've got through a lot of business, all of it, I think, of direct importance to the citizens of Monmouthshire and to the efficient and effective running of this this council. I'll just say, I hope you'll spend the next 2 days praying to St Derek Brockway, the patron saint of meteorology, for fine weather on Saturday, when I hope to see as many of you as possible down at Armed Forces Day, Cymru, at Caldecott Castle and Country Park. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, the 17th of July, as has been stated before, only 3 weeks away. In the meantime, take care and go safe. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.